All right, today I am joined by a very special group. This is probably the most people I've ever had on the podcast. I am joined by two of my former classmates at BC and my two cousins. We'll start off with the first one being Aleks Djordjevic. He is a soon-to-be graduate of Boston College with a master's in sports analytics, currently works for a hockey scouting agency, and is a soon-to-be, as I said, graduate from BC, but someday down the line will be an NHL GM. How are we doing today, Alex?
I praise my man. Thank you so much. But yeah, we'll see about that last part. Everything else up until then was like golden, but that last part's like we'll see. We'll see what we're given. But yeah, pleasure to be here. Happy to be here, and some family ties, BC ties. Love to see it.
There we go. Well, it's a pleasure having you. Thank you for your time. And next up, we got Sam Hofstetter, who is now a double eagle like myself, just graduated with a master's in sports administration. He was also a BC undergrad graduate as well. Currently works at 47 brand and is from New Jersey. Alex is from Vancouver, Canada. Then we got Ryan and Joey from Boston. So we got a lot of things covered here. Obviously, a big part of the geography in the world here is covered, which is great. But how you doing today, Sam?
Doing good, Joey. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to make my podcast debut today with a future NHL GM and Alex. So I feel honored to be in a very talented room today.
Yeah, we got quite a group of people here. We do, truly. A lot of different perspectives and obviously with the amount of, things we could talk in sports, which we had obviously time together as a group after the Beanpot, the semifinal game about a month ago now. We were at Banners after that game and all of us met up and within a 5-minute window of us talking sports, we're like, you know what? Let's make this happen. Let's get a podcast episode. And having Alex's expertise talking hockey and then Ryan and Joey, lifelong hockey fans as well. It's going to be special. Now moving on to Ryan Hosea. Ryan is a graduate of St. Michael's College, a former college baseball pitcher at St. Michael's, is my cousin as well. He raps and works in sales currently. Ryan, a pleasure having you back on the pod. You're a returning guest now, probably, I guess your sixth time, roughly, probably somewhere around there. But how you doing today, Ryan?
Doing as good as I can. Always a pleasure being on the pod, and I wish I was still catching no hitters for you back in high school, but here we are now talking sports, so it's just as good.
There we go. I love it. Well, thank you for your time and thank you for coming on. And now, last but not least, we got Joey Hosey. He is a former baseball pitcher at St. Michael's College as well, a teammate of Ryan's. Obviously, being cousins, all of us, love sports growing up, always talking sports. So being able to have Joey's perspective here on the podcast is great. Joey is currently a Boston firefighter as well. Joey, how you doing today?
Good, Joey. Thanks very much for having me. I'm super excited. And like you said, after our first conversation, it was electric. I was spewing a lot about James Hagens because we were at the Bean Pot, so I was all fired up. So I'm ready to go, and I'm just excited to be back on the pod.
There we go. Well, James Hagens, that was kind of the start of our conversation, right? At Banners, like you mentioned, that kind of started Alex giving his perspective from like a scout's perspective, and then Ryan and Joey obviously giving their take on it, just being BC fans, and obviously coming from that Beanpot game where he had a great, semifinal game against. They played that game. They played Harvard, right? Did they play Harvard? Yeah, they did. But that was obviously a great game to see James Hagens and showcase all his talent. So being able to have you on here now to give your take, and now we're live on the podcast, so it's legit. So we'll start off with we'll get into James Hagens in a few minutes. We'll start off with the Olympic gold medal game between Canada and the U.S. Whichever one of you guys wants to start. I know Alex will have a lot to say about it. I'm sure Ryan and Joey as well. So let you guys take the conversation where it goes. But obviously, we debriefed that 2-1 win for Team USA in overtime just about 2 weeks ago now. I'll let Alex start. Alex, you give your take on the game. Obviously, being from Canada, I'm sure it was disappointing, but at the same time, you're a fan of the game of hockey, so you did obviously enjoy watching an entertaining battle.
So this is the part where I go for like the controversial uh clip bite type statement where it's controversial and it gets people going and maybe slightly provocative, and I say that it was stolen or something like that. No, it was a great game. Great Olympics. Uh, First one in a long time since 2014. 2014 felt kind of anticlimactic compared to 2010. So it was the first proper taste of best on best, obviously with the exception of Russia not being there. In general, a lot of teams played well. There was a prospect on Latvia that was really impressing a lot of people, Albert Schmitz. And then in terms of Canada and the US, I mean, you could tell right from the hop that that was going to be the gold medal game in some fashion, depending on how the brackets played out and in the respective, divisions, or what one wants to call them, the groups, I guess. They take the very Eurocentric soccer, football type of terminology. But yeah, it was a great tournament. Both teams had some, tough competition in Finland and Sweden heading into the gold medal game. And then, I mean, they gave fans everything you could have hoped for after that much of an absence and building off the Four Nations and then some. I would say probably it's the most impactful game for the sport of hockey in the United States, in the history of the U.S. hockey program as a whole. Like there was, the miracle on ice and whatever people reflect on before, and there's no disrespect intended to any of the greats, especially those from Boston that ended up lacing them up for that team specifically. However, the game that the team played as a whole was, I mean, one could argue that it was just the goaltender that stole the game, but I think in everybody knowing their identity and them playing a team focused game, trying to basically mitigate the liability in front of Hellebuck and let him do what he had to do to win the US that game, that they executed better than the Canadians at the end of the day. And as unfortunate as that might be for the great country of Canada, if that leads to a trickle down effect where, similar to other states in the US, based on previous successes, that there's a boost in activity at the grassroots level of the sport, like in Texas and Florida, which we've already seen to a certain extent, and maybe some other Southern Belt markets, then that's great for the sport, right? And like the best example I have is in Dallas. I was there and I was talking to a gentleman that works for the Stars in their business strategy department. So he's, just trying to basically figure out how to put people in the seats. And there's one night a week where they really try and negotiate with the NHL not to have games because high school football is law in Texas and around Dallas. And to me, that's so fascinating because I'm like, not to be that guy, but we have the Canadian Football League up here, and you would have to pay me to go watch those games. They're awful games. The goalposts are on the 1 yard line. It is such a liability for so many reasons. And it's not entertaining. It's three downs and then you kick. It's just the most ridiculous. Well, actually, you have to kick on the third down, I guess. So, I mean, I don't even know my sport's own rules, and it's called the Canadian Football League, right? That's just how it is up here. So it's hockey or bust. The US and best on best came to play. They had the whole Olympic experience. They took it home. And the pride and joy of UMass Lowell, the Riverhawks, Connor Hellebuck, man, this guy is going to basically save that institution. Like the UMass system is going to get overloaded in a certain area, and it's all thanks to this guy's greatness. So without a further ado, like I'd love to hear what you gentlemen have to think about Team USA's historic win. Obviously, there was some political stuff that happened there. You can't really control what certain people say. However, I think for USA hockey as a whole, we'll see how the Paralympic team bodes right now. But in terms of the men's and the women's hockey programs, I mean, the women's hockey program with the PWHL talent that they had stockpiled and just the quality that they showed, like that was like seeing the dream team for Team USA basketball, but for women's hockey. I mean, it was really no disrespect intended to any of the other teams that were there, no less the Canadian women's team, but this was just like a different level. This was like primo Brazil when you see like Ronaldinho, Kaká, and all those like skillful players. Like that's what this was like. Like that Taylor Heisey assist to BC legend Megan Keller. Get out of here. So I'd love to hear you guys' takes.
Yeah, no, I think you broke down everything perfectly. I think you said obviously it's going to grow the game of hockey. And like I mentioned before, you obviously were rooting for Canada, but you also root for the sport to grow as well. So you see from that perspective of it's going to grow in the United States. And like you said, shout out to Megan Keller, obviously having the game winning goal for the women's team and the men's team winning too. It just kind of culminated, a great Olympics, especially, in ice hockey for Team USA. But I'll let Ryan or Joey jump in. And obviously, I know some of us have our mics off. If you guys want to have your mics off at the same time, just dive in and jump in all at once, that's absolutely fine. But Ryan and Joey, either one of you guys can give your thoughts on Team USA.
I mean, I think seeing that team on paper, both teams actually, Canada and USA, seeing those teams on paper and trying to look at them and being like, who are you taking here? Like, there's guys on both sides that if you had a dream draft and you had an NHL team and you could take guys from just those two lists, there's plenty of players on both lists. But for the USA team, me growing up a hockey player a little bit when I was younger, just knowing like what a lot of those kids have gone through to like all the way through the national development system and all that, and kind of leaving home when at a very young age to like chase this goal. The goal was to get this win in 2026. As much as people, are saying like, oh, like it's the first time in 46 years, they have been planning for 46 years. How are we going to do this again? And like ever since they put the NHL players back into it, I know it's had a couple of years in between, but ever since, the first time they put them back in, it's been okay. How are we going to get young American talent to the top again? And just seeing this group, I mean, you have guys that, last year at the Four Nations tournament, like dropping the gloves, like just because that's how much they care about this, and like that's how much they want to win for this country and stuff like that. And it was nice, to watch a game and have that pride again and be like, wow, like this is for the country. You know what I mean? It's not just a hockey game anymore. And I think the same goes for Canada every time that their national team steps on the ice. It's more than just a hockey game. It's a pride thing. And it's something that every single one of those players has been dreaming about for the second that they came out. You know what I mean? Like it's been a dream. And for me as a fan now, obviously I've never been involved with the USA hockey program personally, other than registering every year to play. But just being a fan and knowing like that team has been coming up for years on years on years. And there's been guys that, got dropped off the roster at some point, but that are back on. And then guys that, stopped playing hockey altogether that were involved in the program at one point in time. It's just crazy to see and understand like, wow, this has been something that USA hockey has been planning for a while. And it finally came into fruition. And anyone that watched that game will say that's one of the best hockey games, if not the best hockey game they've ever seen in their entire lives. The speed, the talent, the unbelievable goaltending on both sides. It was hockey displayed at the highest level and the best way it possibly could have. And I'm just so happy to like be able to say like, yeah, like I know some of those guys, like obviously not personally, but like I've seen them play at BC. I've seen them play at whatever other Hockey East school, and just how important that is too. Like there's guys throughout the entire Olympics on different countries playing Hockey East. And like that wasn't always a thing. It was a lot of Americans playing in the Hockey East. And that's kind of it. You would get your trickle down guys from Canada, but it was mostly just Americans. Then you have a guy like Celebrini, like he chose to play college hockey, like NCAA hockey. And it's just for the sport as a whole, it's just going to start exploding different areas. I think like areas that maybe had hockey but didn't care about it as much, they're going to start going to games because people that I work with, not hockey fans before the Olympics, now they're hockey fans and they're asking me like, hey, who's your favorite players? Like, I'm looking at this guy. Is he good? And it's like, it's just funny. It's like, wow, like that's how much one game can do for an entire generation of fans.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. It grows the game, and having Hockey East people, Hockey East alums have that much success obviously grows the conference itself. And I think Celebrini, a guy we're going to mention later on, because and I know you guys know hockey at a different level than I do, but if I'm drafting a franchise today, like Celebrini would probably be my first overall pick. I think he's that good, and we'll obviously talk about him in the next few minutes. But like you said, showcasing that much talent all on the same ice, and obviously the biggest stage in the world, it was a special game. And Joey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, so obviously me and Ryan are brothers for anyone that didn't pick that up, but like so obviously me and Ryan were watching the game together and like I'm sure Ryan could attest to how like fired up I was the whole time. Like I woke him up, I got out of work. So I was up already. I was all fired up. I'm like, what are you doing? It's the gold medal game. Like get upstairs. Like come on, but like that game, like was just unreal. Like I'm sitting there jumping out of my chair like every 2 seconds. Like Hallebuck makes the behind the back save. Like I'm screaming. I'm like, oh my God. And then like Jack Hughes scores and I didn't even know it went in. And I'm like, I just like pause. I'm like, wait, why'd the game stop? And then like he throws his hands up, throws his bucket into the stands. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like we really just did this. Like, you know what I mean? Um, and no, like Ryan said, it's like it's so great because like growing up, like I remember TJ Oshie like in all those shootouts and like how big of a deal that was that like he was just going in and like scoring pretty much every time and it was like how is he doing this and I know like we were playing hockey at that time and it's like that made me want to go like play hockey so much more and that made me like and I ended up playing baseball. We ended up playing baseball, which is unfortunate in that sense, but like it was just so awesome to like go play your next hockey game after that because like now everybody feels like they're TJ Oshie when they get a breakaway and then you get stuffed by a goalie from Dedham like but either way it's just great but overall that game was unbelievable and Canada had an unbelievable hockey team. I mean, if you look at the top five like point leaders in the NHL right now, there's three of them that were, you know, essentially the first line for the Canada team. And it's like when you ever have that amount of talent on the sheet of ice at one time, it's just unreal. And then obviously the US too is like it was just so cool to see two sets of brothers too. I mean, like me and Ryan played in college, like that was cool. And I'm not no way comparing that at all. Like we didn't go play a gold medal game, but like it's just cool because like I know what that feels like and to like think about like how they must have felt like winning that gold medal together with their brothers, like the Kachucks and the Hugheses. It's like it's just so awesome, and I honestly think that that's maybe a big reason why this team glued so much and like people played their roles is because like it was more than that. And then I also just want to mention too, like with BC, obviously I'm a lifelong BC hockey fan, but like what they did for Johnny Gaudreau and his kids was like absolutely world class. Like, you know what I mean? And I truly do feel like that was a little bit of a background for them too, is like, let's do this for Johnny, by any means possible. And I don't know if it comes into the higher power or whatever, but like that seriously like that save like doesn't happen. 9 times out of 10, that puck goes in. If you give Nathan McKinnon that wide open shot, 9 times out of 10, he's burying it. Like, so a lot of things in that game were, like I said, that one chance that they had, it just went our way. Um, but it was awesome. And then, yes, the women's hockey team too, like that was unreal. Like, and I know all that stuff happened with that. But all in all, like I thought it was really cool that Jack Hughes was also like the first person I thought about was her. Um, and I just thought that that was cool to think about because, you know, that dynamic must have been so strong. But I don't want to ramble. But all in all, best hockey game I think I've ever seen in my life. And I just 10 out of 10. Like I'll rewatch that game anytime I get the chance. Like I like it was just awesome.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Joey. I think obviously that game just meant more, and I think the Johnny Gaudreau, memorial they kind of had after the game, having his jersey, out on the ice and bringing his kids out there, that was really special. And for someone obviously that graduated from BC, and I saw Johnny play at BC a few times. You and Ryan saw Johnny play dozens of times, right? So obviously you knew how important he was for that BC program, Team USA, just hockey in general. So just having that to commemorate him was really special. And Sam, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that gold medal game. I'm sure you were tuning in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have too much analytical sense to add to this just because I am not the biggest hockey fan in the world, but I will say I love the NHL. I watched all of the gold medal games in regards to hockey. I even followed speed skating. I thought the Winter Olympics was awesome this year and just the growth of hockey in general, seeing what the fact that the competition down the road for next Winter Olympics, there's going to be that precedent that's being set. I'm sure one of you guys could correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the first Olympics in a while where, NHL players are actually playing on the USA team and the Canada team, and that precedent being set is going to make it a lot stronger for future years. I know there's been injuries too. I know if I was it Sidney Crosby, I believe, who got injured, and I'm sure, that's unfortunate, and especially for the sake of the NHL regular season. That's really unfortunate. But I think just playing for your home country and being able to rally around your team to play for something greater than just the NHL season, I think is more important than the risk of, let's say injury, which is a very small likelihood. But just overall, I have to agree with you guys. One of the most memorable hockey games I've ever watched. Probably the most exciting game, probably the best hockey that's been played by, you know, in my lifetime that I've ever seen. But I think just overall, fantastic game. I'm really looking forward to following the NHL season because of it and future iterations of the Winter Olympics because of it.
It definitely grew the game, right? Like me and you, Sam, like we like hockey, but more basketball, football fans, right? Baseball even. But like you said, everyone was glued to that TV that Sunday morning. Everyone wanted to see it and tune in. And I think obviously with the next, Winter Olympics, like you said, the standards are now even higher for especially with Team USA hockey, right? Winning both the men's and the women's, both in, miraculous fashions, right? The women's team winning on a game-winning goal from, Megan Keller. And then also you add in the Team USA team for men's winning in heroic fashion as well. And, everything kind of, encapsulated in one. It was just this very special Winter Olympics. And this will bring me to the next topic. And this is one that's probably the most, I would say, popular of ours, talking about two BC hockey players and two guys that are future, obviously, NHL stars, and both are Bruins draft picks, James Hagens and Dean Letourneau. I'll let you guys kind of take this where you guys want to go. I know a lot of us, are big time fans of each of those two players. And I would say, and I said this earlier, I think honestly, you guys being off the mic at the same time, having your microphones on is probably best because I know you guys are very, hyped up to talk, about these two guys. But we'll start off with obviously Hagens and then, jump over and talk Letourneau. But I'll let Joey start off talking about his guy, James Hagens.
I already had the mic off. I'm ready to go already. I can't say enough about this guy. You know what I mean? And like, I don't even like Latorno is good, but all we got to talk about is Haggins. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, I don't know. Like, you get the sense when you watch him. You look at every shift he plays, like every stride he takes, he's just in the right spot, and that's what I love about him the most. Um, is, like after seeing him play a couple times in real life and just following him a little bit is like, um, he's just one of those guys that like makes the right pass, makes the right play, takes the right shot, like, and is in the right spot. And just, earlier, just in preparation for this, I kind of just did a little research and like, um, about just comparing Johnny Gaudreau and James Hagens, like both at BC, because I was like, trying to gauge like how good he actually is. And so like Johnny Gaudreau had 44 points his freshman year. James Hagens had 37 his freshman year. And Johnny Gaudreau played 44 games. Hagens played 37. So like arguably like pretty similar seasons. And then Johnny Gaudreau's sophomore year was 51 points. And James Hagens is up to 34 right now, I believe, after 26 games, which like when you look at that, it's like, wow, this kid's actually good. I mean, we're talking about the Hockey East. You know what I mean? And so those are two of my favorite players. Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau is probably my favorite hockey player of all time. And I talked that night to you guys, like when I used to watch Johnny Gaudreau, like the game would just slow down. Like it looked like he was playing in slow motion and everybody else was just moving at like their normal speed. And I just think that's like the telltale sign of like this guy's good. Like it's the same thing with McDavid in the NHL. And with Gaudreau, it might not have translated that much to the NHL, but like that, like kind of a crazy take, but like McDavid in the NHL is like how Gaudreau looked in college, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I can't say enough about James Hagens, and I'm excited for Letourneau too. I think he's going to turn out to be a good guy as well, but you just know I'm a little biased for Jimmy Hagens.
Jimmy Hagens. Yes, Alex, what do you think of Hagens? Obviously, from a scouting perspective, I'd love to hear your thoughts on him.
I'm pulling up. I can't really show my screen for certain purposes, but I'm pulling up a list here just to have it ready for later. But in terms of the Gaudreau comparison, so I loved Gaudreau, loved watching him, watched him live up just being Canadian, like playing for the Flames. Like I was there when he scored his first goal against the Vancouver Canucks, for example, when he wore like number 30 something, 50 something. It was crazy. And we have this running joke as Canucks fans post 2011, like everything started going south for us and we started reliving like past trauma from the older generation that told us in the early 2000s and early 2010s, like, oh, it's going to get bad. Just you watch. Canucks hockey, you just wait. And then it happened and it hit us. And we were that team that was, Louis Eriksson's first goal as a Vancouver Canuck in his
Louis
debut game
Eriksson, Jesus.
on our own net. On our own net, he scored because there was the goalie was getting pulled for a delayed power play call, and you think you have the advantage because the net's empty. Nope, Canucks hockey. The other team can't even touch the puck. Louis Eriksson puts it in their own net. Back to Gaudreau, he scores. It was a decent goal. It wasn't the nicest goal of his career. The nicest goal I saw was the overtime game against Team USA goaltender Jake Ottinger when he just absolutely rifled it like just above his right shoulder. Um, Tremendous player, tremendous family guy. Just the impact that he had to BC's community, not just the hockey team, the culture that was left there, just the history of coming back, just the story of why he went back to the US after all that time. Really heavy stuff, and it impacted a lot of people, especially those in the USA hockey community and BC hockey community, like a tremendous amount. And obviously, the Flames organization, like the entire city of Calgary, really just in terms of how they showed up for that family and how they felt despite him causing the biggest heartbreak that they've felt since losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Cup Finals. It was a really beautiful thing, yet sad to see. And going back into the not to hit home that drum, but to go back to the Gaudreau comparison for Hagens, both are similar in some ways in the sense that they have large hearts. They give back to the community. They're all about their families. They're both very close with their brothers. It's an eerily similar situation in terms of how those dynamics are formulated. But in terms of just Hagen's game, he has that chip on his shoulder where I think it's kids are lippier these days, right? There's TikTok, there's all sorts of empowerment that you're your boss and whatever, and people exercise willpower in the craziest of ways just to prove a point, maybe because they're bored on the day. And you have these absolute, whatever you want to call them, that play for your New Hampshires and your Maines and Quinnipiacs and whatnot, like guys that are very great hockey players, better than I've ever been, better than most of the guys I've ever played with, and thought we're going to go to the show, but they don't have that extra little bit to push them to play in the NHL. They could play in the ECHL, they can play in Europe, they can play in the AHL, but making that last jump is where a lot of guys fail. And those guys, whether it's envy, jealousy, whatever you want to call it, they look at a guy like James Hagens, and if I'm a player, and every time I've looked at a guy like playing college soccer, for example, that was better than me, I'd be like, oh well, he's not all that. James Hagens is all that and more. The only question I have whether or not he has it in him to play as a center at the next level or if he's going to be a winger. Regardless, I see him as a top 15, top 20 player in his position, which means he's slated to play on the Bruins' first line if the Bruins decide that that's a player that they want to build a franchise around. And given what Don Sweeney said to the media the other day, leading up to this week, it definitely seems like they're looking to bring him along for the ride. Dean Letourneau, on the other hand, wasn't touched on too much, so I'm worried about my boy Dean. That's a soft spot for me, given how he was last year. Registering 3 points, 4 points, and then being one of the Hobie Baker favorites this season. Quite the turnaround to have people chanting Dean to try and piss you off and get under your skin, and channeling that to something beautiful and becoming this 200-foot player that's just crash and bang all over the ice. And anytime he touches the puck now, you hear the loving version of Dean rather than people trying to get under his skin. So it's beautiful stuff. But back to the Gaudreau part, if there's any player right now that people in the NHL, people in circles of fans out here in the media and whatnot compare to him the most, it's Ethan Wittenbach, who's playing for Quinnipiac. The kid's hit 50 something points right now. Calgary Flames 5th round draft pick in 2025, drafted 144th overall. Not the tallest player. He's also the first ever recipient of the Gaudreau Award in the USHL. And I was named, if I'm correct, after both brothers, not just Johnny, because Matty was there as well. And I mean, both of those guys, fantastic guys. And to put a bow on it with the USA Olympics story, there might have been, if you believe in higher powers and otherworldly things, there might have been some of that with Connor Hellebuck. Not sure how much you guys were following the Winnipeg Jets. Most people in the States don't follow them. Maybe those in Minnesota, but that's about it. Awful season for them, and just the usage and the wear and tear that he's had this season was questionable. So it was just the question of basically between Bennington and Hellebuck. Both guys have been elite and shown what they can do. One guy has won a cup. The other guy has not crossed that bridge yet, but looks like he could do that with Winnipeg if they build the roster out next year to make that final leap. Um, and both were having really bad seasons. So you're like, who's gonna do what here? Because goaltending is gonna decide this matchup. Team USA came in with, and pardon the expression, they brought plumbers. They knew some pipes had to get broken and fixed. They brought plumbers for the task. Canada, we tried to do that. In a sense, we did that with Tom Wilson. But Team USA brought more plumbers to the party. And at the end of the day, that's all you need. For the 2010 Olympics, when they were building that team, they caught a lot of BS because of the way that they built it and putting Drury on that roster. And their quote was, "We need a couple plumbers. Like, you can't just have, your superstar fantasy all-time team skill players. It's not pond hockey. It's a best of one ultimately when you make it to the gold medal game." And how this roster for this Olympic bout was prized, and the moving parts and how it all intertwined. Like, this was not just decades of USA hockey being slept on, in my opinion, and the people in the United States of America not understanding how high quality hockey is as a whole in that country, even after the Mighty Ducks franchise, even after the LA Kings trading for Wayne Gretzky out of Edmonton and one of the biggest deals of all time, and the Eric Lindros trades, and Joe Sakic with the Colorado Avalanche, like winning it there, and the story of Patrick Waugh and stuff, leaving the Montreal Canadiens, and basically giving a Stanley Cup to the franchise that started the curse for Canada, by the way, Patrick Waugh. But we won't get into the tinfoil hat discussion. But that was basically what it was. The Montreal Canadiens butchered this guy, left him in that, butchered him, pumped him 8 goals, 9 goals, 7 goals, whatever it was. And he told the president of the team back then, they were just sitting in the stands at that point. It was pretty lax, no Evolve security solutions like we have at Connie Forum and all these facilities around Boston where you just walk in and nobody needs to pat you down or anything. If you beep, then they will, but otherwise, free game, and all stay in your pockets, whatever. Just bring good vibes and a smile and you'll get in if you don't have anything suspect on you. But yeah, back then in the Montreal Garden, as they called it, or something like that, it was Patrick Walk whispers to the guy in French Canadian accent, like, "This is the last game I'll ever play for this franchise." And people thought that they would bury him in a Montreal Canadiens jersey. Gets traded out of there, gets traded for to the team basically that was the Quebec Nordiques, relocated in Colorado. And next thing you know, a year removed from their relocation, boom, they win the cup. Similar stuff happened with the Minnesota Wild, where the Minnesota Wild were the North Stars and they disappeared. They had some ownership issues. They were trying to run it lean, like the Arizona Coyotes tried a couple years ago. And they had a weird situation. They decided to sell the team, bring it down to Dallas. And the guy that did that, he's notorious for this type of stuff. He bought the Atlanta Flames and he sent them up to Calgary, and they just decided to keep the name. But yeah, it was like a year or two removed after that relocation as well. Dallas wins the cup and all of this. So there's always these little impacts that, the numbers can't show you this stuff, but the heart can and the eyes can. And if you follow it and you listen and you follow the feeling rather than, whatever Puckpedia says or Elite Prospects or whatever, even myself, like, I'm not qualified to preach on this stuff, but when you look at a sport and when you look at life itself, they fit together so perfectly, and that's what keeps us drawn to it, right? And that was the thing with USA Hockey, to put a bow on it and circle back to what this whole tangent was about, was with the Gaudreau brothers and just the way that team rallied around that family and wanted to do one major win. Like last year, when they had the Four Nations, that was what they wanted to give. and they wasted all of it in the first game in Montreal, so they couldn't do it, and it was heartbreaking, right? It was that McDavid little boop, and that was the discount. That was the Timu version of Crosby's golden goal, and everybody thought McDavid was going to be that guy, right? And two major things in that gold medal game. You have Connor Hellebuck making the save that you can frame up in the Louvre to replace those stolen jewels, because it's at this point the U.S. will pay whatever the difference is to put that in there. It's a work of art. And just his goals saved above expected, gentlemen. Like for the Olympics, they were measuring it based on who's playing there, and no knocks to the French or to the Italians. But goals saved above expected in the NHL, it's worth a lot more than in the Olympics. In the Olympics, it's lower down. It's regressed to the mean because essentially the talent pool isn't as rich as it is in the NHL. Like the quality of shooter that you're facing, no disrespect to Italy, but like Nick Patan's brother who played for Team Italy, him versus a pure sniper on Team USA or Team Canada taking a shot on a goalie, different gravy, gentlemen. Like that is a intensity of 3 to intensity of 14 out of 10. Like you just can't stop that. And Connor Hellebuck had a 4.6 goal save above expected in the gold medal game. And that's accounted for general Olympic quality competition, not Team Canada. Like this is one of the best teams ever assembled, and he had a 4.6 against them, which you could basically infer is worth way more than that. Those saves, I mean, I won't get into that. And Jordan Bennington as well, my heart goes out to him. He had a tough year with St. Louis. We'll see what his future is, but he had a great game as well. Unfortunately, you do a high sticking penalty and you take out the teeth of the poster child of USA hockey, the golden boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Jack Hughes, that's all over TikTok, all over those book circles. I don't want to know what those circles talk about when they look at hockey now, especially after the Netflix show or Amazon show, Heated Rivalry. Like the pulse of this situation has just popped, basically, headed into the Olympics. And then you announce, Tate McRae, Canada's golden generation singer, voice of an angel, our Ella Langley, but pop, is dating the enemy. After all that was said, oh,
Like that got
Shirley
me
will
fired
win.
up. I
But
I
Shirley will
thought that
win,
was
right?
awesome.
And then you high stick him, you take off his chiclets, his front row's gone. He's going to have one of those portable dentures for the rest of his career until he's done and he can get the actual implants done, because it's a liability to have those screwed in while you're playing. And once you lose them, you can lose them again. He'll find that out. Gets sent to the penalty box. No game over. Hellebuck saves the day. Holy smokes, the boys might do this. You go back to the dressing room. You have no idea how you're going to pull this one out. Everyone's against you. The entire arena is chanting against you because of your president, but we won't get political here. None of it's related to the gentlemen of USA Hockey or the mission that they're there for, which is to basically give that win for your people and for the Gaudreau family, and to basically wrap a bow on what was such a tragic event the other summer. They come out of that break, and it's Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon. You guys are barely hanging on by a thread. There is a breakaway that's happening. Jack Hughes, of all people, is tracking back, hauling ass like a demon. Gets a tiny little tap on McDavid. McDavid goes off into the corner, loses possession of the puck because he couldn't finish the sequence. And that was his big hero moment. The cereal boxes in Canada were already printed, gentlemen. And we go the other way, and it's a dead play. The puck kind of bounces around. The Canadian defenseman, forget who he is because it's not his story. It's the Team USA story here. He doesn't know what to do. Puck gets stripped, gets sent across the ice. Nobody's there. The memes are going wild. It's that guy that's doing the whistles, do the redacted game, like the condensed version with the meme videos. And it's like, whoa, who gave him this space? And he just slots it. And similar to the Patty Kane goalie, the goal against the Philadelphia Flyers, nobody in the rink knew it went in except for Patty Kane and maybe one or two other teammates, because they trusted that the guy would bury it. lost his teeth, stole our prized possession in terms of singing after Justin Bieber now because he's no longer pumping out greatness. We had the game where we wanted it for all 60 minutes, similar to the length of this rant. And somehow, some way, by some heavenly power, or possibly the greatness of the entire development system of USA Hockey that started in 2006, mid to late 2000s, after that Olympics in Italy, where they had a goalie summit. And they're like, hey, we need to have more goalies in the NHL. We don't have enough goalies. What is this? 20-something teams from the US. How many goalies are Russian? How many goalies are from Finland, Sweden? How many goalies are from Canada? Too many Canadian goalies. Like, they're coming up from, let's save them the trip. Let's have some of our boys here. And they have a goalie summit and they decide to fix things up. And, you see guys pop up in California, Thatcher Demko, BC Connection. You see a guy from Florida, little known place in Florida, that's developing this goaltender who, happens to be one of the best goalies the Hockey East Conference has seen in decades. And Jacob Fowler, who's on a tear up in the AHL right now with Montreal, and he's primed to get a NHL look. This guy is rare in Phelps. And those are two non-traditional guys that they just decided to invest and pull them. And if they need to put them in a power of center like Michigan to develop them, they will. They're not afraid to do so. Canada doesn't have that. And then one final last blow, a guy like Swayman. Nobody expected this guy to be relevant. This guy, he took the road least traveled by coming out of Alaska. This is how detached he is from your country. He had to go from Alaska, cross over through Canada to get back into your country. And somehow this guy ends up at Maine, ends up in Hockey East, ends up developing into this elite goaltender. And he was the third choice for this gold medal team. He didn't even get to sniff his opportunity for greatness because Connor Hellebuck, the pride and joy, the crown jewel of UMass Lowell, world-renowned now on the map, along with Jack Hughes and a lot of other guys. Credit to the entire USA Hockey men's team and the women's team. I'd love to talk more about them, but unfortunately, that's an even longer tangent because I just caught my first PWHL game recently, and I'll tell you, fellas, the NHL has a run for its money. But unfortunately, that's a 50-minute tangent right there based on this one.
Alex, what PWHL game did you go to? Because I went to see Hillary Knight play, I think last year for the Fleet. I don't know. I think she's not on the Fleet anymore, right? No, because the expansion team, right?
Yeah, she's playing for Seattle, but I'll show you. So I forget the score, so I'm going to go to sue me. I went for my personal enjoyment and I didn't have the score memorized. But we're going to go to the schedule and we're going to go down there. You guys might hate me for it, but I had to watch a domestic tilt. We had Toronto here and had to watch Toronto. And unfortunately, it was a 2-1 hockey game. So it wasn't the best and it wasn't, what it needed to be, but a lot of those players are very good. And I think the Seattle franchise is going to have a rivalry with the Golden Eyes up here and the Seattle Torrent. The only negative drawback is that they don't have their logos on their jerseys yet. And it's just the generic PWHL style. I kind of like it, but I think from like a utility standpoint, like if I'm someone that's, for example, Seattle's okay because it's US, you guys have a stronger economy. But up here in Canada, Vancouver is one of the most expensive cities in Canada. It's not justified. The price of living is so sky high, tariffs, all this stuff, need not get political. But then you're trying to charge a $150, $170 price for a jersey on top of insane concessions. The arena that they're using is the original Vancouver Canucks arena from like the 70s and 80s, the Pacific Coliseum. It was so outdated that they had to literally gut it out, the concessions, like the concourse, mid-season so they could start putting in more restrooms because they didn't know what to do. And they had to reclaim some space. They had to reclaim space from the men's rooms and create all gender rooms because there was literally no space. And they were like, oh, the most beautiful problem of all that hasn't happened in Canadian hockey for a very long time, and it's long overdue. the $1 million problem for this sport, I think, deep down. They were like, oh, there's too many women showing up to this game right now. What do we do? Like, they have no restrooms. Well, we'll create the space, we'll reclaim it. And it's, the first primary tenant in the PWHL to have their own rink. And it's theirs full-time year-round. We'll see how long that's maintained for, because there's a junior hockey team out here that might be able to share that space with them. And if they can both share the budget, it's a really great location. Beautiful stadium, historic stadium. That's where the Rangers broke a lot of hearts, a lot of times. And I know Sam wanted to hear that, so I had to give him his roses, because it's a tough time out in New York as well. Hi, sunshine.
Yeah,
But
we're both in the tank off. Who do you think's going to win
yeah,
the first overall pick between the Canucks and
Canucks
the
have never
Rangers?
won the first overall pick, man. So I don't hold out hope where there is none. But if we win the first overall pick, you better believe, until I'm snapped up by some team somewhere, if I'm lucky enough to say that, um, that I will 1000% be claiming this next pick, basically the next great one. And if he's not, burn the team, burn the stadium. We can't have nice things in Vancouver. And it's all because of those Bruins back in 2011, raining on the parade. We had the parade route all planned out, and you guys had to make us riot in our city and
Our
go
parade was
into.
awesome.
Yeah, you guys made us go into our equivalent of Nordstrom Rack, and people were stealing underwear, and it was going on live television all across the world. And they're like, Canadians mad? Question mark. More to follow at 6. I was like, God damn it.
We'll have to get Ryan's take on that. I know Ryan was obviously you're a big Bruins guy. I'm sure you can relive that 2011 run the Bees had, but you can talk about that. Alex just gave a great rundown of hockey. Truly, that was miraculous. Everything you just covered, from the history of hockey to obviously the Olympics to the PWHL. You gave a great breakdown. So, right, anything you want to talk about, respond to? I know it started with James Hagens, and then we always ended up here talking about the Bruins in 2011. So, whatever you want to dive in and chat about, definitely dive in and talk.
I mean, yeah, being 11 years old and getting kind of used to the city winning championships, it was like, all right, when is the Bruins time? Like, when are we going to have a hockey one? And that's kind of right when I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the NHL. Like, I'm going to play in the NHL someday. So when they finally did it, what was it, like in June or something? Back then, I was
June 15th, 2011, worst day of my
see,
life.
that's
I'm born on June 16th, so
all
that's
right.
why I
So that's
remember
good,
it.
but
Like,
it's
I'd
it's
never
bad
forget it
too.
because it was the day before my 13th birthday.
Yeah, and I'll never forget just being like looking at the TV and being like, "Are you sure this is right? Like, did we just win the Stanley Cup in Game 7? Like is this thing over? Like the Sedins, like they're donezo? Like Tim Thomas? Like, are you kidding me?" So I don't know. It's obviously a great thing for Boston whenever we win a championship, but when you do that in 2011 and then you get close and you don't finish the job, it's tough. You know what I mean? And I've kind of fallen off the Bruins a little. Uh, Not this year. This year I'm kind of back. I'm feeling it again, but I was falling off for a second, just being like, when are we gonna like figure things out? There's a few things, a few moves being made that I don't know if I agreed with 100%, but at the end of the day, I'm sitting at my couch watching the games, and there's people that have a lot more insight and obviously the full story making those decisions. So I think once I kind of got over that and realized that, I started picking it back up and realizing like, okay, like there's a future here for sure. And I'm just excited. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think you'd be crazy to say that the Bruins are slotted to win the Stanley Cup this year for obvious reasons. But I think there's definitely a future for really good hockey players to play in Boston again. And I mean, I just feel like we're always going to be looking for who's going to be the next Bergeron, like who's going to be the next Chara type of guy in the locker
Jimmy Hagens.
room. And yeah, I was just going to
Hagens could
say
be.
we
What
have it.
are your thoughts on Hagens,
Who's
Ryan?
going to be the next Dean Letourneau? That's what you guys are going to be asking in 30 years.
I-
Believe that.
if either of them
Believe
want to
that.
come, if either of them want to come here and get me back downtown, going crazy with people wearing the ugliest color on the color wheel, yellow, then I'll be there. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm just excited for Boston hockey to be back. And I'm excited also to get out to a PWHL game here too, because I mean, you look at the roster too, and you see BC, you see BU. I love the Hockey
Northeastern.
East. Yeah, I love the Hockey East, and I always will. So to be able to see them play in college, and then drive 15 minutes and go see them play here in the professional setting, it's a cool thing, and I'm just excited for hockey to grow in other places so that they can kind of join us where we were, being so passionate about it and caring so much about our teams, and having competition that it's like, okay, we're playing against, I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you said the Bruins were going down to play Florida, I'd be like, oh, that's going to be an easy game. Like, there's going to be 20 people there, and it's not going to really matter in the standings. Like, it's going to be a dub. We'll get the points for it. But like, sorry for Florida. But now, I mean, they're winning Stanley Cups like it's their job and stealing our players. But we don't have to talk too much about that because it wasn't really a steal. It was like, all right, we didn't treat you right. We're going to give you this option. You should probably go win a Stanley Cup and shove it in our faces. And he did. But yeah, I'm just excited. It's an awesome time to be a hockey fan in Boston, and I think it's an even better time to be a hockey fan in the United States. Just wherever you're from, wherever you live, just being able to turn on the TV, see a hockey game, and want to watch it, rather than trying to find a channel that maybe has a sport that you're a little bit more comfortable with or something. And there's people learning, like I said, people I work with asking me questions about the game. It's like, I'm not an expert on hockey at all. I've just had skates on my feet a little bit longer than they did, and there's guys buying skates now. Like, my boss was like, hey, like, these skates are $150. Like, is this worth it? And it's like, yeah, if you want to actually be able to move on the ice, you got to pay a little bit for them. But I think that's honestly the biggest issue in hockey, is just the cost to play and maintain a rink and stuff like that. It's tough, but I think communities will see it's worth it to put a rink up, to run a refrigeration system, maybe in a place where it's not ideal. I think communities will see it as worth it. It'll bring in money when it needs to, obviously at the professional level. And I think it's important for the NHL to continue what they do, and, like what their hockey is for everyone campaign and stuff like that. Like, continue to bring it to communities that maybe don't have it, and start with street hockey. Because if you can get that interest in kids, like, they'll put the skates on, they'll find a way to do it. But yeah, it's just an exciting time overall.
I think the
Yeah, I
Olympics
think
too. My fault, Alex. You go.
no, it was
Yeah.
this was the quickest little one. In terms of the street hockey thing, they're definitely looking into it because back in the day, up here in Canada, they had this giant nationwide tournament, which, isn't that much. This was a little bit more than the state of New York in terms of the population. Like, there's 30 something million, it's 38 million of us right now. Back then it was low mid 30s, but anyways, census aside, that's irrelevant. They had this nationwide, from coast to coast, street hockey tournament called CBC 3-on-3. And me and the fellas back in the day, we entered in it, and the families had to drive us out to this one neighboring city. And we had to rotate who would be in net, right? Because nobody wanted to be the goalie. And it was unreal. Like, you'd have, age bracket systems where you had, like, we were facing off best on best. Like, you guys want to talk about best on best hockey? We were facing off against some of the toughest little kids ever in this entire neck of the woods. And you'd think Canadians really nice. We had these kids like using the whippy little plastic blade sticks, because those ones hit a little bit harder if you curl them. And they would just slash at your ankles, and you're not wearing any protection. You're not playing soccer, right? You're playing street hockey. And they would just hack at your ankles, and you'd come out of there like all bruised, and you go into the next game, and then you're playing the big kids. You're playing the guys that were, they were eating what's it called? Stock feed. Like, these kids were built on a farm. And then that guy accidentally runs over you, right? And almost snaps your leg, because I'm 5'9" right now. So back then I was, any locker you have in middle school and high school growing up, I could fit in it. We played a game out of it growing up until I'd like hit my growth spurt. So a big old, Alberta beef fed boy, like, falling on a guy like me, it could have been life changing. So thankfully, for obvious reasons, that never, went down that path. But that was one of those formational memories for me, right? Like, and for my buddies too. Like, a lot of us are still in touch. A lot of us play beer league together. Like, there's a group of us that, the next time this comes out, we're going out there and we're winning what's ours, because we had like all sorts of shenanigans that stemmed from this 3-on-3 team, and we had a bench, right? We had the B team, the C team. Like it was tough. We had a coach as well. It was like I'm telling you, fellas, this was prime time. So to see something like that in the US and have it be PWHL ex NHL focused, that would be electric because it's similar to what the NFL's done with flag football, right? Like you're making the sport more accessible. And we had the vice president for international strategy at the NHL, Lynn White. She came in and talked to us at BC just casually, like it was Parents' Weekend, and she was coming to pick up her kids, BC alum, coming to pick up her kids who are current Eagles, and just take them out for a nice little, nice little drinks, dinner, what have you. Maybe go see a movie. I forget what their itinerary was, but she was talking to us about the growth of the sport, and she's like, much harder than football or basketball because you can go anywhere with a football or a basketball, and you put it in someone's hands, and maybe they won't know what to do with it with a football, but with a basketball, you can do a lot of things with it, right? And the philosophy that the NHL has is if they put a stick in someone's hands, you're either a fan or a player after that. So bringing that feeling to people matters a lot. And it's all about those experiences, right? Like everyone has that one experience that makes everything for you. Like for you is that cup run, and for me as well for different reasons. And you guys looked and you're like, wow, did we really win this? Well, for me, it was like, damn, we really lost. And the helplessness of seeing your childhood heroes and idols like Ryan Kessler, Michigan born Ryan Kessler, like my favorite player of that generation, like one of the best two-way centers, like going toe to toe with Bergeron, falling short. The Sedin twins, the most crazy story in league history. Like, imagine if the Gaudreau brothers were playing or the Kachuk brothers were playing on the same team for their entire careers, and these guys just knew exactly where the other guy was at all time. Like the Sedin twin highlight reel is something people to this day play to hype themselves up before going to Rogers Arena, going to Costco, which is right across the street from Rogers Arena. Fun fact: closest Costco to NHL arena in the world, right here in Vancouver, BC. You can get a triple hot dog threat meal for basically $5, and that saves you $50 in our arena because our ownership needs the money. Um, I apologize for that part. The Canucks, if they're listening, they might not like that last part, but it's true. They really love their money up here in Vancouver, and for obvious reasons. Life's expensive, right? It's getting more expensive. So it makes sense that they want to make a business out of it. Ultimately, what you want to do is make affordable access for the kids, give them lifelong memories. And in the case of myself, give them a little bit of trauma and heartbreak that kicks their butt into going to grad school in Boston and fighting their demons trying to work in the NHL, right? You guys say whatever about the GM stuff. For me, it's if I get a seat at the decision-making table for a draft room and I'm one of those 15, 20 guys in there, I could be the lowest of the low. I could be the note taker, which I know is probably not something y'all would expect after this podcast showing thus far, that I'd just be sitting there taking notes. But I'd gladly do that to be in any room, even in Buffalo, boys. And the only reason why I say even in Buffalo is because Robert Thomas from the St. Louis Blues unfortunately decided not to go to the city of Buffalo and to the Sabres, which are approaching since 2006 their first playoff berth, potentially, if all goes well. And he didn't want to be part of that excitement. He didn't want to be potentially their next great leader. But that's what hockey's about. That's what sports are about. And, like if you guys want to talk about other sports, I'd be more than happy to do that. Like, can talk your guys' ear off about the NCAA hockey and hockey itself and analytics and all that stuff. But ultimately, like, I'm just a guy, and my opinions are as good and as bad as anyone else's. And I'm just curious about, the other sports that you guys grew up watching, because the US is such a like diverse marketplace. Like here it's basically hockey, curling, golf, basketball, baseball if the Raptors or the Blue Jays are doing good. Soccer, yeah, we've got that too, but we're not that good. Not anymore. Toronto had a really good team, but then they decided to move off the American-born Josie Altidore because he wanted too much money and too much term, in the wise words of Lou Lamoriello, and that was it. So it ended the era of soccer being great again in Canada, and now we're struggling. And sure, we've got Thomas Muller, but Inter Miami's got Messi. So we found out how that ended. And so, yeah, hockey's all we got. And unfortunately, you guys for the next couple of years borrowed it from us until our paths cross again in France. And thankfully, due to the CBA of the NHL, that's a possibility that the players will be there unless something crazy changes. So, to answer Sam's earlier statement from like 40 minutes ago, yes, there should be hockey in France in the French Alps, Swiss Alps region. So vibes will be high, drinks will be a lot more expensive than in Italy. Accommodations, I don't know what the accommodations are going to be like compared to Italy. Italy was a very weird setup where it was a couple different host cities and satellites, and the city of Milan was primed and ready for multiple years to host this tournament, and what a place to do it. Whereas where they're going in the French Alps, it's a little bit more bespoke, a little bit more bougie, a little bit more affluent. So it'll be kind of like the Spengler Cup in Switzerland, where you're basically feeling like you're in a mountain resort and only there for hockey. So maybe under those conditions, Team Canada can pull it off because familiar surroundings, not enough mountains in Milan, not enough. Some, but not enough. So we'll see. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think, whether it's hockey, whether it's college puck. I mean, we've probably crossed the time for that to talk about college free agents and stuff. But football, basketball, baseball, soccer, whatever you guys are vibing with, gentlemen, I'm very curious because I'd love to understand why Americans hate hockey and why, even after all this greatness, until that SNL introduction happened, people were about to boycott the sport. So I'd love to hear why that's the case.
Alex, we don't hate hockey here. We actually live in the greatest hockey country in the world, actually. So just to just to let you know that. So we get to enjoy that for the next 4 years. But I digress.
But I think what you said earlier, Alex, with how in America there's so many different sports, right? I think Joey kind of mentioned that as well. Like here we have football, basketball, hockey, soccer's even growing, right? Like in Canada, like you said, hockey is that sport. Here, I guess, like all of us grew up playing different sports. Like I guess mine would probably be baseball and basketball. Ryan played basically every sport growing up, including hockey, Joey as well. Like so I guess that's the thing here is, everyone has kind of a different, number one sport. But I know in Canada, obviously that main sport is typically hockey. But I think the accessibility you mentioned with other sports like basketball, for example, you can just pick up a ball and go. Hockey is very different in that regard. I think soccer being, and one thing I want to mention as well with the World Cup, obviously a few years ago, now it's coming back this year as well. That really grew the game of soccer, grew MLS. You see people like Messi going to, into Miami, with the growth of soccer in the US. I think the World Cup, obviously growing soccer in the US. I think the gold medal game between US and Canada is going to help grow, hockey here in America. And maybe it'll be different, 4 years from now, hockey will be even bigger and, it won't be like every kid's just picking basketball or football. Maybe every kid's picking up hockey at that point. But Ryan, you played a lot of sports growing up, Joey as well. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, accessibility of hockey is a little different than basketball, for example.
I think one big thing is like high school sports, like you touched upon a little earlier with the Dallas Stars, like they mean a lot in a lot of communities. And depending on which high school you go to, like that can kind of start your path. It's like, oh, I'm going to a basketball high school. I'm going to try to make the basketball team. Then it's like my whole life now is going to be basketball oriented. And it's like for me, I was lucky enough to not have you as well, Joey, not have a strongly athletic high school that was pressuring me into joining any team. But I don't know. I just grew up playing every single sport there was, and I've always loved sports. But there's times where people would ask me like, "Hey, what's your dream in life?" And it's like I want to go to the NHL. But then you could ask me literally 2 days later, and it's 52 degrees outside instead of 30, and I'm like, okay, I want to play in the MLB. Like I'm a baseball player, so I think just having all the options, and then I mean, you walk into a sports bar and you got 7 different sports being played on TV all live. You know what I mean? It's just marketing is obviously one of the biggest things in the United States, and they market every sport really well. And a lot of them are like, okay, let's have this kind of play this sport campaign. And then it just turns out to having so many lifelong fans, like even people that, might have played on their JV basketball team in high school. Like they're still following basketball just because they want to remember those memories. And it's like, it's bringing them together. It's like, oh, didn't you play in high school, John? And it's like, yeah, I did. Like, let's watch the Celtics together then. And it's just a way for, I don't know, people to be together. But one quick thing about the World Baseball Classic that's coming up is Aaron Judge had an interview, and him just talking about the men's and women's teams and being like, we can't now not come back with gold. Like, even though the game's going to be played here, if they make it all the way, like they can't not have gold now. And just saying something like that, it's like, this is a professional baseball player, one of the best, one of the highest paid, talking about he watches hockey. You know what I mean? And as little as that might sound to someone, that's going to be huge because baseball kids are going to be like, that's my favorite athlete of all time. He's saying hockey is fun to watch. Like, I'm going to go watch hockey. And it's just like, it's really cool. Like, one win is going to start trickling into so many different wins, even though it might not be on a score sheet or a schedule. Like, it's going to be a win for communities, a win for this country as a whole. Like, sports has always brought people together. Like, you look at what happened after 9/11, baseball, you know what I mean? That brought the entire country back. You look at the Boston bombing, baseball. David Ortiz gives that speech. We win the championship with one of the worst teams to win a World Series, in my personal opinion. But it happened because something like that brought the city together, you know, it brought the people together, brought America together. Like, there was nobody saying like, I don't want to see the Red Sox win the World Series. Even Yankees fans were like, they kind of need this one, you know, like this city needs to heal. And how do we do it? We do it with sports. And it's just such a powerful medicine and way to, you know, live life. Like, all the life lessons that I've learned, sure, like I have my lessons from family and all that, but when it comes down to it and I don't understand something, I think about baseball and I'm like, it makes sense on the field. Like, how can I make this make sense in my day-to-day life? And I'm just so thankful that I grew up watching sports and grew up involved in sports, because if I didn't, I'd be a completely different person. And I don't know if I'd honestly be able to speak the way I do, like lead the way I do, and like all these different things. It's like baseball gave me that. Like, and I'm just forever grateful for those opportunities and the opportunity to continue to talk about it. Coaching now, like coaching, if I'm not at work or talking and watching sports, I am literally thinking about my 10U baseball team and how we can have a better season than our 3-win season last year. And it's like, that's my life now. And I love that because I know those kids can't wait to get to practice just as much as I can't wait to get to practice, because I've been in their shoes and they're telling me like, coach, like school stinks. Like, I want to be at practice all day. Like, I wish we could just do practice at school. And it's just awesome to see, like, especially with these generations coming up, like with iPads and video games and all that stuff. Not saying that those are bad things. I indulge, you know what I mean? I play video games. I have an iPad, you know, but still excited sports. And I mean, I let my team wear USA gear to our practice the day after the Olympics. And I was like, boys, like no uniform today, like red, white, and blue. And like seeing kids like show up in red, white, and blue and like smiles on their face, being like, coach, like, do I look like Quinn Hughes or Jack Hughes? Like, and it's like, that's awesome. Like, that is unreal. Like, kids putting their tongue in front of their teeth, being like, coach, who am I? And it's like, wow, like sports are here and they're here to stay. And it's just an awesome time to be a sports fan.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think sports do teach you a lot of life lessons. And Joey, obviously, you played just like Ryan, played basically every sport growing up. You know, what are your thoughts on what Ryan just said?
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective because like obviously everything Ryan said is like very good and very like relatable. I also think it just has a lot to do with influence, like what you're born into, like did where you grow up, like certain like things because you know what I mean? Like if you look at a kid that was born in Canada, like maybe their family loves hockey and so like then the kid just wants to play hockey. He doesn't even know about football really or you know what I mean? And then like I don't know, for me like growing up, I loved hockey. Like hockey, I was convinced I was going to play hockey my whole life. Like that's what I was going to go with until Ryan started playing baseball more and then I was like, "Oh, like I have to be better than Ryan at baseball." So then I just kept playing baseball. But I just think that influence in general, and like Ryan's saying with the iPads and everything, like I think influence is so much more meaningful nowadays than it may have used to like may have been in the past, sorry. Because I just think that there's so much more in front of people. Um, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing at all. And that could go for music too, or whatever it is that the interest is. But like talking in sports terms, I just think it's so awesome, like how that influence can affect, what sport somebody wants to play and then kind of pursuing all of that. Um, but no, just in general, like it took me a while to like love baseball more than I loved hockey. But I did get to that point, and then I went all in on baseball, and focused all my time, all my energy, like all my thoughts to baseball. And that was awesome, you know what I mean? And then, there was times where I was facing off against you, Joey, in CYO basketball, and like that was awesome too. Church league basketball. I mean, I'm shooting threes in my cousin's face and probably
Hey, I
not
responded though with a three though. I did
not
that same
hitting
game.
any
I
of them.
responded with the three the next possession.
But I was watching we were watching Steph Curry, so what did I get on the court and do? I got on the court and started hucking threes.
Influence,
But
you're right. It's a fair
you
point.
know you know what I mean? And like I wasn't thinking of baseball in that moment. I was thinking about my next three ball. And I'm telling you, the three ball wasn't there for me. So, but no,
You
I'd
did
love
hit one
to
on
hear.
me though. You did. You hit a three on me though that day. You did.
No, no. Joey's a way better basketball player than me. But anyways, I'd love to hear from Sammy too and you on this because I think that there's a and Alex, like there's just unique perspectives for everybody, you know what I mean? That will show the difference because I could have a completely different outlook on that than you. And then last thing real quick is like also, I hope to have like kids and a family one day and it's like when I do have kids in a family, like I played baseball, I coach baseball now with Ryan, but I love hockey. Like, if my kid were to ever love sports, like I wonder what influence my interests are gonna have on my kids. And like I see it all the time with guys that I work with too, is like their kids just want to play hockey because that's all they know, or like that's all their dad played, or that's all, you know what I mean? That's all their family played. So I just think that plays like a huge role in that.
Yeah, no, I think influence is probably the best way to put it. I think that word that you used is there's no better way to use it. When you're looking at Steph Curry play basketball and you get out there and you want to be like Steph, just like the Odell Beckham, Junior catch that he had, the one-handed catch, everyone wanted to be Odell.
Yeah, don't let that go over your head either.
That
We
was
were
my
back on the turf and I was trying to do the Odell
No, I
catches.
remember back in the day, I was trying to toss it up to you, with Sam though, Sam played lacrosse, which I didn't even know till tonight, Sam. Like, and I know we've talked basketball before, we talked football. You never talked about lacrosse, but what has sports taught you, over your life, playing sports, watching sports, whatever it may be?
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like sports, I mean, I work in sports. I mean, a lot of us work in sports. I think sports, when you think of it like big picture, someone told me this and I've never forgot this to this day. Sports is the biggest religion in the world. Like 4 billion people in the world follow sports. Now, granted, there's like a billion people in the world who follow exclusively cricket, and I've never watched cricket in my life, but maybe one day I'll go and travel the world and go see a cricket match. But for the sake of what I'm trying to say today, a lot of people follow sports for many different reasons. And I feel like going back to your point on hockey, like I feel like sports in general, people gravitate towards where the best version of that respective sport is. So what I mean by that is if you're trying to watch the best basketball in the world, you're probably going to watch the NBA. If you're going to watch soccer, more likely than not, you'll watch La Liga, Premier League, but you're probably not going to watch MLS maybe as much. But going back to hockey, the NHL is still the probably the best place to watch professional hockey, and I think the Olympics in general, and someone like Hughes, putting USA hockey on the map, even though I'm not a Devils fan personally, I'm a Rangers fan, but I think I'm going to pay a lot more attention to him personally, and just like seeing where sports are growing just from those big cultural moments like USA hockey in the Winter Olympics, I think is only going to grow the religion that is sports. And I think just from my own experience, yeah, I play lacrosse. Most people don't really follow lacrosse, but I did go to a high school where my high school was top 10 in the country in football. We had the legend of Doug Eddert, who, if you ever watched the St. Peter's Peacocks, hit that shot against Kentucky. He was on our high school basketball team. Great player, got to know him personally. And even the legend of, I know Alex would know this, Aaron Manetian at BC, both Boston College and Bergen Catholic, my alma mater. But I guess just going back to the point of I got a lot of exposure to a lot of different sports. Now, I didn't really play a lot of basketball. I played like CYO basketball growing up. I played like my freshman year, but lacrosse was my sport. That's what I was good at. And going back to your point, like my dad played lacrosse. He taught me lacrosse growing up, and it was just something that just from his experience and getting to go see college lacrosse, because college lacrosse actually is played primarily at like Gillette Stadium for the Final Four, in Philadelphia for the Final Four. We would go every single year to watch like Duke and Denver and Syracuse just go at it. And I know you guys probably aren't paying too much attention to lacrosse specifically, but I think it's more about what it is to the individual who, grew up playing that sport. Where, today I don't really have a lacrosse stick in my room personally anymore, but I still like to follow the game. I think it holds a lot of meaning in my life. But yeah, I mean, football in general too. I feel like so many people follow football, basketball too, with just the currency around superstar athletes like a Steph Curry, LeBron, me personally, Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby, but it's but here's the thing. That's the point of sports, is to, experience it, talk about it, get to go to the games, get to have discourse about it. And I feel like that's why something like hockey is now just such a hot commodity right now, because people are actually talking about the sport almost as more so than football and basketball, which I think is awesome. And even me personally, I'm trying to watch more NHL games, trying to get to a Bruins game hopefully soon. So I think just overall, I'm a lover of sport. I think just being open-minded to experience more games. Like I got to go to my first PWHL game last year. I worked in minor league hockey. Some guy who was the captain on the team taught me how to skate. I suck at skating, but I definitely want to skate again and maybe get a stick in my hands and see what happens. But like I said, I think sport in general is just something that really brings people together and tells great stories.
Yeah, I think that's probably, we all feel the same way, right? Like you said, it brings people together. And I think it does teach you a lot of life lessons. We've all been on teams that have struggled, been on teams that are great. It does teach you kind of how to, get through adversity. Every single game, every single play, there's something different, going on. And I think it obviously translates to life as well. And Alex, obviously, being a big hockey guy, and now being a kid that, went to Boston College, obviously, and you're going to be soon to be a graduate of BC, being in Boston, right? You see the beauty of sports, right? Where it's not just, and you see that in Canada as well. I'm not saying that you don't. You do see it in Canada as well. But when you're in Boston, like you'll see people that are Bruins fans first versus Patriots fans at a first versus Celtics fans at a first or Red Sox fans at a first. It seems like in Canada, obviously, that main thing is just, main liking is hockey. But obviously here in Boston, people like, all four, different sports would be, their primary, number one team. What was it like for you to come to Boston, obviously, and, be part of that, Boston sports culture?
So being from Vancouver, we have a baseball team. It's the Vancouver Canadians. So I believe, I don't even know who they're the affiliate of. I guess the Blue Jays. I don't know if that's logistically viable, but perhaps it is. Baseball fans, apologies. I don't care though. Hockey's better. All respect, all love in games, all fun. I'm just a little bit upset that, baseball players make way too much money. Like I was gonna say when Judge was saying what he said, yeah, it's because if Soto wins it with his boys, yikes. I don't know that much baseball, but I know anything that hurts the Yankees makes me happy, because going off that point, not having an MLB team here, having the NBA franchise stolen from my city of Vancouver and extradited out to the city of Memphis.
They'll be back,
Oof.
Alex. Don't worry. They'll be back.
With the Sonics, please and thank you. We need more
Yeah.
Seattle Vancouver rivalry. Maybe not the NFL. The NFL we can keep away from this great city because we don't have the facilities for it. We have BC Place, which is, I mean, primed for football, but like people don't fill it, and I just think it'd be a disservice for the NFL. I think if you're expanding the NFL, there's so many better markets than Vancouver. We're oversaturated up here, gentlemen. We are looking for a Stanley Cup. That's all we're chasing for. And if it's not hockey, we're not really feeling it. We go through our phases, but it's really not what it is. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, being in Boston was very interesting. Like as I said earlier, I likened it to facing my demons. The day before my 13th birthday, everyone was asking me what I wanted for a gift. My mother was like struggling. She was stressing. She's probably losing her hair at that point because she was like, what the heck's going on? Like, what does my son want for his birthday? Like, he's turning 13. He's a teenager. You know, some cultures, that's a very significant thing to be a teenager. We're from Eastern Europe, from Serbia. Shout out Milan Lucic, Bruins legend. We have the same butcher out here in Vancouver, so we stay in touch. Not really, but through the butcher, we I keep tabs on him. My barber's also it's a weird life, man. But going back to moving to Boston, like for a year and a half, almost 2 years, great time. Sports culture was unreal. Showing up as a Canadian, I was like, oh, these Americans don't know hockey. That was my assumption. I was like, they're ungrateful. They're, winning and losing. It's never enough for them. Always more and more and more. Take, take, take. Like, all I want is that, people were crying about losing to St. Louis in the Stanley Cup, for example, in the finals. And I'm like, brother, since 2011, we haven't done anything. We had Bubble Demko in the bubble. We had a run after that, which was kind of mortgaged off a lot of bad decisions and trading everything for Zadorov and Elias Lindholm. And then next thing you know, they disappear and the team has culture issues. You're like, huh? What? So no joy out here. Hockey's caused me nothing but pain, and that's why I love it. It's like golf, right? Don't play golf, but I know if there's one thing about it that makes sense with my familiarity with hockey is that it causes pain and you hate it, but that's why you love it because you want to master it, you want to wield it. And since I can't do that with golf and I can't do that with hockey, both are perfect for me. So I look forward to becoming addicted to golf very soon in my middle age. But yeah, back to Boston, elite. Like knowledge, so impressed. Like the average hockey fan blew me away. Like whether it was a Bruins game, whether it was didn't get to see a PWHL game, but I'm assuming even there, like even though they branched it out to all sorts of non-traditional fans and like the book talk or whatever they call it, and then they bridged it out to like these like whatever trend was going on in social media at the time. I feel like the PWHL capitalized on it in such an effective and creative way, and it helped them grow that fan base, which was really awesome to see. Because obviously, hockey fans are going to go out and watch the games. But what about people that could be hockey fans, but they're not yet hockey fans, right? Like, as we just discussed here, like, you need that one little moment that empowers a little guy that's playing, U10, 10U baseball or whatever you guys call it, putting his tongue between his teeth, pretending he's Jack Hughes, right? Or the other guy's Quinn Hughes, and they're making jokes about how they broke the hearts of all of Vancouver. And how the city's never going to recover from losing a guy like Quinn Hughes and before his prime really kicks off, right? So, just that knowledge, like to have kids buy into it from an early age and not just one sport, right? Like all sports, but with hockey, um, Canada's sport, fellas. Like I came in so ignorant and I was like, you guys don't know anything. I was like, outside of Minnesota and maybe some parts of Massachusetts, maybe Wisconsin, you guys can't touch us. Like we are excellence on ice. And that wasn't the case. Like the average fan and even a new fan, like the way you guys buy in, it's as you said, religion. And whether that's tied to gambling, whether that's tied to the sense of belonging, whether it's influence from family and, pop culture and whatnot, it's this beautiful thing that in Canada, we've got it for one sport. And now for curling, we have it. Like my friends and I are discussing going out, having a couple drinks and jumping in there and playing curling and seeing who's going to do what, right? No one understands the rules. No one cares. We're just there to have a good time. And I think if you can have that energy for hockey, which in terms of the knowledge I've seen, like Boston has it on lock, like that entire neck of the US, the Northeast, has a pulse on the sport, which really impressed me. Even Connecticut, which I thought was just a highway for the longest time. And I know that for a lot of people in Massachusetts and New York, depending on which way they roll, that's what they want to hear. So this is for that fan engagement, the sound bites I mentioned earlier. Connecticut's a highway.
Something
But
us and him can agree on there.
It's a highway
but
with
just
good pizza and
yeah.
occasionally good basketball. Actually, pretty good
Oh,
basketball.
great pizza. And one bar called O'Brien's that my roommate talked up a lot, and they make these like fancy breast cancer awareness shirts that are just beautiful. And hoodies too. So I mean that's, shout out O'Brien's. Never been there, but eventually when I go to see a Yukon Huskies game and go to see Quinnipiac and Sacred Heart University, might be Frozen Four bound. We'll see. Then obviously I would make a run there. So I think in general, fellas, like a lot of knowledge, there's a lot that could be capitalized on. But similar to Canada, once you reach the limits of what you're given in terms of surface area to expand within, like square footage, you got to go beyond that, right? And for the NFL and the NBA, that's been going global, going to Germany, going to England, going to China, going to Australia for the case of hockey. But the thing is hockey's not primed to go global because there's not many areas that play hockey as is. So that process is like a like it's like a 1 or 2 generation plan. Whereas in the US, you guys have always had hockey. You guys just didn't know it. You guys always had the capacity for love, but you just didn't know it. You were too focused on your fancy toys and your baseball and your football and your Tom Brady's. Well, how about your Jack Hughes? How about your Connor Hellebucks, hey? UMass Lowell enrollment and admissions team, I'm expecting these residuals to roll in, baby. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. So we'll see. A lot of states don't have hockey there yet at this level that Massachusetts has it, and New England in general. And if it could get to even 15 to 20%, and I mean this when I say this, like I don't say this lightly, 15 to 20% of what it is right now, hockey would be the third most popular sport in the US. Like baseball might be in trouble potentially, which is crazy to say because when you were talking about the significance in your life of baseball, like in terms of 9/11, in terms of the Boston bombing. And I actually caught that series and I was like, holy smokes, this is such an unreal thing. And I wasn't a Red Sox fan then because I didn't live in Boston and I didn't have like that affinity towards it. But I always looked upon them kindly for that reason. Like always just a kick ass, cool team, right? Unreal branding, loud, proud, annoyingly obnoxious fans, but they know why they can be that, right? They'll talk trash in your face, but it's because they're damn good and damn proud. And that's what USA Hockey was in the Olympics as well, like the Chuck brothers with what they did to the Draisaitl guy, which I love because I'm a Canucks fan and they eliminated us, the Oilers, a couple years back with Elias Lindholm and those guys in the roster. And they told Leon Draisaitl, I'm sure that's a soundbite that went viral in the States, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? And I'm sure they said a whole bunch of stuff to McDavid, but they didn't want to air that because that would anger our entire country. You guys don't want all of us coming down there ready to show you guys in the state of Minnesota the next time there's a pond hockey tournament that hockey is still ours. But, we can share it. Shared custody of the sport. I think it's a beautiful thing. And the knowledge, right? Like passion, knowledge. Boston, like in general, as a city, world class. Like I truly mean that. It's my favorite city that I've lived in outside of Vancouver. Like this will always have my heart and be my home, but that was my second home. And the people there, right? Like they're tough to warm up to you, but damn nice people. Like they don't have to be, they're good people, but they don't have to be nice people. And I think for a lot of people, that's something that they might not understand, but that's just how New England and Boston is, right? Like you don't owe anyone anything. Respect's earned, it's not given. And that's a city and culture that knows it best. And I think, the US could use a whole lot more of that. Like I'm very biased. This was my first real taste of what sporting excellence is and what it's like to go anywhere in the city. Like I was there when the Celtics won when they won everything. And just the fact that fans were outside until 5 in the morning running around the street. And, the Black Rose was right across the street from the hotel that I was in. And people were stumbling out of there at all times of night. And I had a 5 a.m. flight the next day. So when I was leaving, people were, leaving the bar. Like it was crazy. That's stuff that Canada's missed. And since we can't experience that except for like 1 or 2 sports and baseball and basketball on occasion when we're lucky enough to have a team that goes all the way. And it's always 1 out of 30 something teams, right? So it's less likely than hockey. So that's all we've got. But in the US, like there's so many hockey teams. There's 20 something teams, 25 teams right now where you could look at any of those markets and like a Vegas, right? Like Vegas is a destination for hockey fans now. Like anyone have a bucket list to go to like I know friends that want to go to MLB stadiums to watch the Red Sox and whatever in every ballpark. Well, what about hockey fans wanting to go to every single rink, right? Like if you develop more of that and there's a little bit more love that comes out there, and maybe if they can match 15 to 20% of the knowledge and the passion of like New England sports fans that follow the Bruins, Celtics, Pats, etc. Red Sox, don't get me started on the Red Sox. I've been to way too many games, the student nines or whatever it was, crazy. Um, But just in general, like if that level of care could be matched, like then the MLS is extinct. Like I'm sorry to say it, their model, they don't have a relegation mechanism. We won't get into this because soccer is whatever at this point for me. But like I'll always enjoy watching it when it's a big game. But like in terms of day to day, like you're not going to catch me watch. I just watched the Vancouver Whitecaps in a qualifier game against a team from Costa Rica. So I just ate my words there. But you won't be catching on a random Tuesday or Wednesday night going if I have an alternative option, right? If that's the only ticket in the state, we'll be there. But if there's other tickets, I'm going to other shows. So that's what it is. And I think in the States, like if we have that level of love for hockey start to materialize, and if maybe we can weaponize the craziness of what was said after the men's team won in a healthy way, like SNL did, I think there's potential, gentlemen, to see this sport really pop off. And unfortunately for the MLS, until they decide to make it competitive and bring in the European system where there's multiple trickle down leagues and teams can get eliminated from the league. Like imagine that. Like, no disrespect to my friend Connor from Boston College, Connor Courier, diehard Texans fan. But imagine you're a Cowboys fan and the Texans had an awful season, and if they lose their next game, which is being played at Cowboys Stadium, they get sent down to the AFL or XFL for one season. And you go into there and like they come in and their fans are loud and proud and you silence them, you're up 21-zip, 21-3 by the end of the first quarter. And you're singing them out by halftime. That's something that could happen in soccer because it's already existed in Europe, right? Like there was a team in Portugal that, or not Portugal, it was some island state that speaks Portuguese, but they needed to lose a game by 4 goals to get eliminated and for them to get sent down. And their rivals won a game. So it was like the rivals like basically were hoping that this one team would lose by 4 goals or more so that the rival team would get sent down, and the rivals forfeited because it's just a 3-0 game. So they're like, we won't even bother to play. So they, on a technicality, got their guys kicked out. And like, think of like, it's like the Bruins and the Rangers, man. Bruins and the Canadians, like that type of hatred between teams. And that's what soccer's missing in the MLS. Like, no disrespect to the league, no disrespect to the fans. It's just that level of competition is not there. Like the MLS Super Draft, it's not matching the NBA draft. It's not matching the NHL draft, let alone the super mechanism holiday bonanza that is the NFL draft, where people take out lines of credit on their houses to book an elite suite for their entire family in like the city of Detroit of all places, just so they could spend 3 nights there and watch, with defenseman, like defensive lineman is going to draft in the 6th round by their team. Like it's crazy. And unfortunately, hockey doesn't have the equivalent of the Cleveland Browns outside of the city of Buffalo and the Sabres. But if we could get that level of buy-in and passion, even when times are tough, it would be unreal. And the only place in the world, Sam, I apologize for this, but the only place in the world in the States where you get this outside of the state of Minnesota is in Boston, my friend.
Not New
Those
York.
fans, even when times are tough, brother, they show up there because if they're going to yell at their GM and tell him to get fired before he drafts James Hagens and flips this franchise upside down, Happy Gilmore style, they got to be the ones to yell. They're not going to let some other guy. They're not going to let the fans from Montreal go into their TD Garden, the
We
real
can say
garden,
it,
by
but
the
you
way,
can't.
and
S-
yell. Exactly.
s-
He's
s-
our guy.
Exactly.
Speaking of Happy Gilmore, Alex, I remember we were at Banners when we went. You told me to, I didn't know what was at Banners. We are like, let's go to Banners. It's the Bruins draft party. We go, and Adam Sandler's on the TV making the pick. The coach is there. He gives the pick to Jimmy Hagens, and the whole place goes crazy. Now, obviously, I know James Hagens, you know, projected number one overall. Going down to six is, you can make your own opinion on that. I think this season is so much better than last season, but nonetheless, I think just him and the being on the Bruins was a match made in heaven. And I think the fact that the city, albeit not a great season leading up to that draft, now is rallying behind him and the team's going to be having that momentum. I think it's only going to be great going forward.
And it's not a Bo Callahan situation, gentlemen. People showed up to his birthday. They
Callahan.
love the kid. They love the kid. He didn't go first for other reasons. He was two in his head, unfortunately. I remember we were at the Western Michigan game when it was Halloween that weekend, and we were all dressed up as refs, and we were two rows in front of the scouts. And we had one of our friends. He was just like going off on how glorious James Hagens is, and
Ian
how he's gonna
McNabb.
be like,
Yeah,
yeah, he's gonna be
the
locked in
legend.
as the number one pick, and if he's not, like, he'll
I
quit
gotta
his
meet
job
that
the
guy.
next day. And I was like, brother, he's an amazing player. He's gonna go top 10 for sure, top five at least. Otherwise, I'm shocked. However, we had this similar situation with a guy named Shane Wright who played out in the Ontario Hockey League, and there was different conditions there. It was post-COVID type of situation where the kids out here lost critical touches with their team and with themselves on the ice, right? Like, it's a suspect way of saying it, but they just didn't have enough games, right? Like, same with baseball. Like, you can practice all you want, but if you're going to go out there and play a 100+ game season, like, you got to be game day ready. And I don't care what people say, like David Ortiz, they'll say whatever about his body. Like, that guy right there, he was built for power and performance. And he brought it every single day, man. Every single day until his last day in the show, that guy brought it. And if he didn't bring it, he was bringing energy in a different way. So that's what these kids were missing in their development path. And then, the Olympics happened. Nobody was there. There was a kid from Slovakia that came out of nowhere, and he was playing ex washed up NHLers that were playing in Europe that were the only guys eligible to play, like guys like Mason Raymond and stuff like that. Canucks legend who unfortunately, got injured in that 2011 series. Otherwise, he would have been the next McDavid. Joking about that one, but he would have been a pretty decent player. But yeah, it's just like he came out there against pros and he held his own. And I think a similar effect to that is going to be the Spengler Cup. Like, now that we have the US college selects, like, I think a lot more people are going to be doing scouting tours out there and catching that tournament because you're playing against pros. And Davos always brings the competitive squad as the hosts, and whatever the top teams outside of Canada are in a given year over there, like, it's high end hockey and it's in a beautiful place. Like, that's a bucket list of mine to go work a tournament on in Davos and just go with my little iPad notebook or whatever. So I'm imagining I'll have one at that point. Right now, I'm just doing analog with a pen and paper, but we'll work up to the iPad, gents, and I'll go there and I'll just be taking these notes of a kid that's playing for UMass Lowell, right? Shades of Connor Hellebuck, lightning quick in the crease, edge work like silk. Wow. Like, T pushes like no tomorrow, dots his T's like a Gemini, like all this stuff. Like, it would just be such a joy. But yeah, unfortunately, some sports we don't get that, right? And it's a shame. And there's only a few places where you can get that. And it's unfortunately hockey. Live, breathe, die hockey. And that's why James Hagens, whether you like it or not, as an Islanders New York connection guy, and I'm sure you would have liked him to stay on island there and do whatever because it would be fun for the story writers. But we're not the NBA, we're not the NFL. We don't write scripts. We let it play out authentically, right? And that's why this kid, like last year, comparing him to Shane Wright, like, a lot of people thought it was a knock because production wise, they compared him to Celebrini and the other guys, right? Celebrini, to bring it to earlier about the fantasy pick going first, maybe he doesn't go first, but he goes top five. Because there's guys that you would pick maybe ahead of him right now, but in a year or two,
Let's
Celebrini's
hear your
probably that guy.
top three. Who would you, if you had three franchises to start, who are you picking?
This is going to be a wild card and it might piss some people off. And especially here in Vancouver, it's going to be an unpopular thing to say. But I'm going Quinn Hughes one. If I'm building a team, I'm building it from the blue line because those defensemen, they're playing upwards of 30 minutes a night, right? And your forwards, like, if you get one guy and he's not going well, you've got, outside of that line that he's on, 9 other spots for him to play in to stay on that team and stay on the roster. For defensemen, depending on their handedness and whatever, they can only play on 2, 3 lines. Like, so it's different gravy, right? Like, different spots. And it's not just like there's 6 defensemen, but some teams carry 7. It is what it is. In the NCAA, you see teams carrying 8, like the BC Eagles and a couple other teams. They'll run heavy on defensemen. Michigan does it as well. They're really good at that. MSU's done it as well. Um, but in hockey, in the show, like in the NHL, like, you've got mainly 6 guys. Some teams run 7 and they'll take away one of the forwards. If it's like the Canucks, will take away our 12th forward because he's just some guy that's unfortunately, like playing above his, above his level at the moment. He just needs seasoning, but we can't develop our guys because there's no culture of excellence here. So we got to just force him in and be like, hey, what's your name? All right, go figure it out. And it's like he can't figure it out. And then we send him down to Phoenix or whatever. That's what we used to do. But um, yeah, it's interesting with defensemen, right? So I build it off Hughes and then second pick, I take it back to Canada. Love him or hate him, McDavid's that get you out of the seat type of player. Like that gold medal game, right? In OT. One of those 5 rushes that he had in overtime alone, if one of those goes in, that's the goal heard around the world. And kids in Zimbabwe would be like, Connor McDavid's my favorite hockey player. Thank you for eliminating the US. So it's little things like that, like Quinn Hughes, because he can play both sides on any pairing, high IQ player. The Hudson brothers, whatever a fan from BU wants to say, Quinn Hughes is that, and he will forever be more than both of them combined. And that's going to empower the fans of the Montreal Canadiens to probably sue me for slander and who knows what else we could sue people for here in Canada. But it's a conviction statement. Quinn Hughes is that guy. He's a soft spoken leader, and it's just someone that I'm really impressed with, like how he moves on the ice. The fans out in Minnesota, like they got him for a bargain of a price. Like they could have given up 14 more picks. And I think like it would have been a negligent thing to do because he could get injured at the end of the day. But what a player, man. And Jack Hughes is good, but he's not in my top 5, unfortunately. Golden goal aside, like there's a lot of inefficiencies with his game where I just don't see it coming out always consistently. So it'd be Hughes, McDavid, then either McCarr or McKinnon, and then we'll flip it down where it goes. I like Celebrini. He might be my 4. And I'd like to say Crosby for 5, just because it's probably the last year when anyone could ever say that they're selecting Crosby in the top 10 of a fantasy thing ever again, which breaks my heart as a Canadian kid. But yeah, that's what it is for me, fellas. So I don't know if you guys are thinking I'm crazy, but I'd love to hear it. I know Sam's just waiting to say JT Miller's going number 1, but the culture builder over there, because he tried and failed at Vancouver, but I'd love to see that.
Sam wants to talk some NBA, I'm sure, knowing him.
Well, I don't think JT Miller would go 1. I don't know. I mean, I don't I disagree with your list, Alex, but I don't know. I feel like
Perfect.
but I feel like you hit a lot of the respectable players that would be in that top 5 for sure.
Yeah,
Hey,
McDavid.
restaurants have menus, right?
What'd you say?
Restaurants have menus. Everyone's got preference. Mine's Hughes, McDavid, McCarr,
Hell yeah.
McKinnon, Celebrini. I got some homer picks in there, but Quinn Hughes, number 1. Come on now.
No Matt Boldy.
Matt Boldy's
Matt
great
Boldy,
too.
buddy.
Great pick. Great pick. He
Your
might
best ability, fellas, is availability. And Matt Boldy misses games in a frequency that's not consistent, but it happens once a year where he's out for a stretch of games.
Just like
And those
Christian Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
And those games are crucial, right? So, I mean, it's tough. And that's also why maybe I'd even consider a goaltender. If Connor Hellebuck was 27, 28 years old, I'd be picking him first. Because that's a workhorse. That's a guy that's stallion. Championship pedigree, Kentucky Derby stallion, or whatever that prime horse culture is for horse race for
putting
for
the house
those for
on
the
him.
Derby. Yeah, like Secretariat, he couldn't even sniff the genes that Hellebuck would have if he was a horse. Like this guy, if he was 27, 28 years old, signed to the deal that he is for 8 years, I'm taking him first, and I'm not even. I'll skip the next 2 rounds after that, boys.
What do you think, Rye?
I don't know. I mean, I did want to say this. This might be giving Alex a little too much. But as a hockey fan, I'd choose Sidney Crosby pretty high up too for the same reasons. Just because, like, I mean, when I think about like who did I say I was whenever I was playing like knee hockey or street hockey outside, I was like, and here comes Sidney Crosby, big 8'7", and like that's always who I'll think of as like one of my favorite players. Like I have his jersey. It was probably the first hockey jersey I ever bought was a Sidney Crosby Winter Classic jersey. So like he's definitely up there. Top 3, probably not, but Celebrini's up there after watching that USA game for sure. I'm probably on the defensive side too, though. I think you need good defense, especially in the skilled NHL right now. If you don't have
Mm.
at least your first and second line guys really holding it down and keeping traffic away from the goalie, it's gonna be a tough game for you to win. So
Offense.
I'd probably go on the defensive side first.
I
Get
was
the
just
best
gonna say
defenders.
offense fills the seats, defense wins championships, baby.
It's fair
Boom.
to say, yeah. It's a good way to put it, Joey.
Michael Scott.
You're right. You're right. But let's dive and talk about the NBA really quick. I know Sam, big Knicks fan. Joey, you're a big Celts guy. Obviously, two teams that are top teams in the East this year. I'll start with Sam. What are your thoughts on the Knicks so far, the way they've played this season? I know they had some really good wins, especially as of late. Last night, I thought they kind of got screwed somewhat against Oklahoma City, but they've been very good overall this season. What are your thoughts on the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, just going off of last night's game, I was watching till the very last minute. I mean, it was just an unlucky draw. They had two opportunities at three. It happens. I'm just happy that they came back and the game was close because that's a team that we're going to play one more time in the regular season, and I'd hope it's a close game again, and that's all you can ask for, honestly. But in regards to the Knicks ceiling, yeah, it would be foolish for me to say that an NBA Finals clinch and potentially more than that is not the expectation for them. I do think being realistic, like the Pistons have their number. I do think that if they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and they play the Pistons, that's gonna be a tough series. I will say this, last year I did pick the Celtics to beat the Knicks in six, and that surprised me because the Knicks ended up winning in six. And I know Celtics fans will tell me that the Tatum injury or whatever, it was going to be 3-1 regardless. And I do think the fact that the Celtics had statistically one of the worst two shooting games in their whole season, that that's an anomaly of a series in and of itself. But the point is, that season last year, the Knicks were 0-4 against the Celtics in the regular season. So I think when it's playoff basketball time, I think there's going to be a totally different ball game. I know the Pistons will easily have home court, but if it's Knicks Pistons Eastern Conference Finals, I guess my pick would probably be the Pistons in 6 or 7, but I wouldn't go as far to say that the Knicks don't have a chance. But I think Eastern
I
Conference
hate to
Finals
break
is
it to
the
you,
yeah.
but if Tatum comes back, it's not gonna be the Knicks and the
So
Pistons.
here's
First
my
be
take.
tomorrow.
Here's my take on the Knicks. If they played the Celtics, let's say in the whatever the
East
quarterfinal
Coast
or
Finals or
the
something.
two versus the three seed, whatever it may be, whoever has home court doesn't matter for the sake of this. I think the Knicks, the way that they built their team with Mikal Bridges, which you could say whatever you want. I know it was an overpay. I understand. But Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby defensively were designed to be basically to stop the Celtics. For what it's worth, Mikal Bridges literally had two of the most clutch plays in that series for a reason. I think Bridges and Anunoby are a great matchup against the Celtics, with or without Tatum. Now, if Tatum is back and he's healthy, allegedly, and he actually plays like to 80 or 90%, I think you guys actually have a really good shot at winning that series. But I think the Knicks were designed to beat you guys, so I think that's going to be a great series.
I
If the
totally
Knicks if the Knicks win, I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics win. I also wouldn't be surprised, but I think at the end of the day, with or without Tatum, I think the Knicks have a slight edge just based on how the team was designed. But the
I agree.
problem is because they were designed to beat the Celtics, let's just say they do get past that hurdle. They weren't designed to beat the Pistons. They have no answer for the Pistons as of right now. Jalen Duren's a problem. Cade Cunningham, honestly, could get MVP if SGA or Jokic is out of the 65 game qualification or whatever you want to call it. But I think just the way the Knicks are designed gives them that ceiling to reach as far as the finals. I think if they actually did make it to the finals, they have a real shot at winning. But like I said, the Pistons are a huge hurdle, and I'm not counting out the Celtics either.
Yeah, Joey, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think that I'm so surprised that the Celtics are even in this conversation right now. Yep. But
Like 3 weeks in, people were talking about AJ DeBonce on the Celtics. I don't think that's a conversation you could have anymore.
no, definitely not. And I was one of those guys, by the way. But I was watching the Celtics first 2 weeks of the season, and it was hard to watch basketball. Like like Alex was mentioning earlier, like yeah, I'll still watch the game, but like I'm not enjoying myself. Like I was watching the game and I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like and again, a quick point I want to make is the Celtics approach to the game is so different. They chuck like 43s a game and I'm like the problem with that is like you're not always going to be able to hit, 33s, like or 35 threes on great nights they hit 35 through whatever. But you're not going to be able to do that. So like say we do get to a game 7 and you're hucking 43s and you're like I don't even know, like 18 for 40, like we're not going to win that game. And so I think that's where the Celtics are flawed a little bit. But what I do like about that on the other hand is like all five guys on the court the majority of the time can knock down that three, the open three, and they do make the passes to get them open. I mean, Pritchard hits contested shots all the time. Like, Jaylen Brown has played unreal this year, but I'm not I think it's always going to be Tatum. I love Tatum. I think it's Tatum's team. But what Jaylen Brown has done this year has been amazing. But what I haven't loved about it is it was more about what Jaylen Brown's doing rather than like him trying to keep the Celtics afloat for when Tatum gets back so they can go win a championship. I think that he was trying to prove himself this year rather than which has worked out for the Celtics overall. But to the point, something that bothered me was Tatum is a top 10 player in the league when healthy. Hopefully he comes back to be that again. But to the point where Jayson Tatum's on the sideline, like, I don't know if I'm going to come back this year because I don't know how I'm going to fit into this team because of how Jaylen Brown was. Like, I didn't like that at all. Um, but I think that also could could be some publicity stunt to like make his documentary boom a little bit, um but no, I do just think that this year is going to be very interesting. I'm super excited to see Tatum come back because I mean that's going to be a telltale sign of how this year is going to shape out for us. Um, and then also the future. But overall, I think it's and I really like your point about how the Knicks genuinely built a roster to beat the Celtics, and I actually love that because that just feeds into what we were talking about earlier. Like you have a franchise that wants to beat the Celtics so bad that they go out and get two All-Stars that essentially do well against Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. Like,
Sacrifice our whole future.
yes, like and that's dedication right there. I mean, as a Boston fan, I hate when New York teams do stuff, but that's like awesome to me because that brings back the like we're gonna do whatever we possibly can to get under your guys' skin, and we don't even care if we win the championship. Like we just care that we knock you out.
No, I totally agree. I feel like well, also
In
like
six games to be precise.
this is
Yes,
true. This is true.
exactly.
But like long term, like for the Knicks, because they were technically quote unquote the two seed, which I think was a little overrated for that season. But anyway, the the Celtics were the best team in the East for a long time. And that was the team that like they had their target on. I mean, obviously huge rivalry, of course, but it could have been any team. It could have been like the Jordan Pistons rivalry where Michael Jordan's getting ripped every offseason to just try to compete with the Pistons and he finally gets over the hump. So like stuff like that where it's
Absolutely.
like you're designing your team to get over that hump and now obviously things have changed. I'm very honestly like I really hope the Knicks, I mean, optimistically, I really hope the Knicks do somehow find a way to win it this year because next year with the Pacers in all likelihood getting a lottery pick, I'm terrified of that.
Me
I
too.
don't I honestly think it could be wraps between the Pacers and the Pistons going forward and I'm
If
just
you put
hoping
the
that
monster with Halliburton, like that's just
yeah.
Hey, we need
So
that pick to fall between 5 and 9. I'm a Clips fan, so we get that pick if it falls between five
oh,
and nine.
let the Clips get it. The Clips need all the picks they need, especially
Fingers
take
considering the
crossed. We
Thunder
need
are
it.
getting
Fingers
theirs.
crossed.
take it to the West Coast.
So the Clippers get the
We get the
Pacers
Pacers
pick
pick.
in some scenario, but then you lose your pick to the Thunder.
Yeah, the Thunder own our pick this year. They own swap rights next year, and then the
Terrible.
next 2 years will be 2028 pick is owned by Philly, 2029 pick is owned by Philly in a swap. So we don't have our next 4 picks, but this year that we have Indiana's pick if it falls between 5 and 9. So it's a small window, right? I mean, it's gonna be a coin flip whether or not it's like the fourth pick, the fifth pick, third pick, whatever it may be. But
Such a
um,
weird trade.
It is weird, but it worked out on our end. Like getting younger, I think was the right idea for the Clippers. Getting Darius Garland, Benedict Mathurin, like those guys getting younger is important. Like Alex said earlier, though, availability is kind of the best ability, and Darius Garland has been hurt, kind of all the last 2 seasons for the most part, especially this year. He missed a lot of games for Cleveland, and then this year just played his debut with the Clips this week after missing like 10 games. So I think this team, the Clips team we're at right now, it's obviously kind of like a retooling year, I guess you could say. For the Knicks, obviously, I think it's more of like a win now window, right? Winning the next year or two while you have this kind of roster together. As for the Celtics, right, this is a gap year, and somehow, some way, they find themselves in right in the mix of everything to potentially win the East again. But we'll see how Tatum looks in the lineup. Joey, you said you think it's still Jayson Tatum's team, even though he hasn't played this year.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. What I like as a basketball fan is somebody that can influence all aspects of a game. I mean, he rebounds the ball, he gets to the rim, he plays great defense. He obviously hits the three ball and like he's clutching. Has he been like absolutely dominant in huge games? Like not necessarily, but I mean he definitely has had some performances where he has, over 40 points in a big game, but he's also had performances, and I think this is an overlooked stat of basketball, is when a guy has points and assists, obviously, a guy that has, say, 20 points and 15 assists is almost like 80% like accountable for a victory. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I've
Like,
always said that. Yeah, an assist is just as good as a basket. People don't really look at assists
exactly.
as
And
much. I
and a
know.
guy that can be that big and play make that well, like you'll see if he comes back and he's actually in like decent form. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's not scoring as dominantly, but you'll see by just him being on the court how much it opens everything up for everybody else. And just because you have to guard that guy. It's like playing Connor McDavid. You're obviously gonna throw all the pressure you can at him, but then that opens up doors for everybody else. Do you know what I mean? He's just
Yeah,
that type
yeah.
of guy and that type of dominant.
The defensive mindset, right? We trying to stop him. It's just like when you have a great wide receiver one, the whole entire defense is going to focus on stopping him, right? That opens up, production for the wide receiver two on the offense, right? So I completely hear you on that. We'll see how they look with Tatum back. I mean, they have been rolling without him. That doesn't mean I wouldn't play Tatum. I would honestly have him start on the bench a couple games. I wouldn't throw him right back in the starting lineup, which I don't expect him to do anyways. But I would let
Right.
him kind of ease back into playing. Let their core of guys that have been playing well together this year keep doing that. Let Tatum get acclimated and then see where they're at, a month from now when the playoffs start rolling around. But Sam, what would you say about, obviously I know you're a Knicks fan, but do you expect Tatum to kind of, fall right back into this lineup flawlessly, or would you expect it to be some growing pains, give him some time to, get back into the mix of things?
I mean, there's definitely going to be growing pains, not just for the fact that, I mean, I hope he's 100% healthy. I mean, that's all you could really hope for as an NBA fan, but I do think there's going to be some rust. I think because he's coming back in early March, puts him in good position to be close to his real self come playoff time, or at least, whatever that may be given his, injury recovery. But I do think there's going to be some growing pains. If he even does play tomorrow night, even for like 10 minutes, I mean, it's better than nothing. I think him being on the court is an X factor. He's very good at catch and shoot threes. He doesn't need to be necessarily driving into the paint every single time. I do think there is immediate value for him to be on the court, and I do think the Celtics ceiling definitely exceeds expectations if he is on the team for the season. But I will say this just for the sake of I hope Tatum is healthy because I really hope that he's considering, the long-term ramifications of this, just because he did talk about his legacy in the sense of we know that last year Jaylen Brown won the Finals MVP and was the Eastern Conference, whatever, MVP of that round. And I know Tatum won the year before that, but that was, Brown's trophy, quote unquote. I know Tatum got the ring and got the trophy too, but Brown barely got, outvoted over him. And I know Tatum had a very valuable game three in the finals, and you can argue Tatum's value in that final series, but at the end of the day, 50 years from now when we talk about the Celtics, Jaylen Brown has more of the accolades than Jayson Tatum. And I do think if Tatum did come back this year, and let's just say Jaylen Brown somehow miraculously won league MVP or the Celtics had a great run without him. It's just a tough situation for Tatum to be. And it's kind of like a lose-lose, to be honest, because if he does come back and the team falters because of him, it's like, oh wow, the Celtics were good without him. You didn't need him, but we all know his value. We think he's great. I think the fact that he is hurt or coming back from injury is only going to add more questions to the ceiling of the Celtics. But I think it gives you guys hope, and I do think, let's just say you do win a championship out of it. I think that's only going to add to Tatum's legacy, but it's a big risk. And I think long term, there's a lot of questions that we don't know the answer to until he actually steps on the court.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, tomorrow night he's supposed to be back. But Ryan, you got any thoughts on Tatum's return?
I honestly, I just think it's a little quick. I get it. I understand like what the season looks like now is a little bit different than it was maybe even a month ago talking about it. I just don't want to see it rushed, and I don't want to see, an injury come out of it because we put him back on the court or anything like that. I think he's one of the better players in the NBA when he's healthy, obviously. It's gonna be an adjustment period for him coming back. It's a major injury, and it's that's getting hit every single game. You know what I mean? Every single time he goes to stride, every single time he gears back for a 3-pointer. Like, is he going to be thinking about that? Is he going to feel anything? Is he actually at 100%, or is he trying to, write the script for himself? Is he trying to be like, nah, like this was just a setback. Like I'm going to be back at that number one spot in Boston. And I mean, I think Jaylen Brown has his inconsistencies. Um, I just don't think Tatum has as many. But I also feel like right now, like Jaylen Brown's literally playing unconscious. Like it's a whole different Jaylen Brown. It's a Jaylen Brown that I don't think I've ever seen. Um, and I don't think that should be something that Tatum's scared of. I think it's something that he should take in and be like, okay, like I don't have to do as much this year. Like I don't have to come right back from this and play the minutes that everyone's expecting me to play. Like I can kind of ease back into it. And maybe by the time the playoffs come, like, yeah, I'm ready to get my minutes back up there. I'm ready to, have an impact on the team. And I think he's also an impact in the locker room. You know what I mean? And sometimes it goes in the negative side of it. And I don't like that all that much. And when you see a guy like him, you think of, captains that Boston has had in the past. And it's just like, you're not really being a captain all the way. You know what I mean? Like you should be supporting this guy. Like at the end of the day, his success pays you as well. And I'm not just talking money, I'm talking career, Hall of Fame type of status. Like who did you play with when you were playing? You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I think as long as he's showing that he's ready to play, sure, I guess let him play. But if we see anything that's inconsistent with what we're hearing about the reports of him being all right, I think it's sideline him and wait it out till next year. Like that's a franchise player that you need to make sure is on this team, one, for the rest of his career, and then two, healthy and actually having an impact on the final score.
If I were Tatum, I would not play next week against the Thunder. Lu Dort is out for blood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, let's talk Lou Dort. That was something you brought up over text.
he's
Talk
dirty.
Lou Dort.
He's dirty.
No, I just thought it was
He's a
funny because
Canadian.
he is Canadian and he is a very
Oh,
dirty
Alex.
player. What
The
I will
Martian
say.
of basketball.
And we love basketball for that reason.
What I will say about Lou Dort, I know there's like a recency bias. Like obviously, people are talking about Lou Dort. I know Draymond Green got way more publicity during his time than Lou Dort ever did. And I actually looked this up because I was curious. Lou Dort, over the course of his whole career, has had 4 ejections, one of which was during the Jokic game. He's never been suspended, and he's had 3 total fines, which isn't a lot. Draymond Green, however, has been ejected 24 times, which is the second most out of any player ever. I know DeMarcus Cousins is up there. I forgot who's number. I didn't look at who number one is, but Draymond's been suspended 6 different times and has been fined 227 times. So, all that to be said, like Draymond is a different, standard of just terrible players. And if you think of players tripping other players, I know people don't like the Duke players like JJ Redick, and I know who's the guy who's tripping everybody, who's
Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen. Thank you. Yeah, he's, those guys obviously have a special place in NBA player hatred, but I do think Lou Dort's numbers of ejections, suspensions, fines, and all the like is probably going to slowly inflate over the course of the season because people are drawing attention to it and because the broadcast is going to scrutinize it and referees are very much adapting to what the discourse is around the sport. So kind of I mentioned earlier like the Eagles with the tush push, like they were getting away with it like crazy. And then I think it was Tom Brady on a broadcast who was like, hey, I think they're false starting, and like they're all false starting. And then a week later, the refs started actually calling false starts, and the trickle effect of now the Eagles, get multiple false starts, and they actually can't convert, and they're losing games because of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lou Dort. I'm not saying he's going to get suspended. I wouldn't be surprised if he got ejected twice as much as he has in his career over the next couple weeks. Probably gets fined a bunch of times. I'm very curious what his play is going to be like come playoff time because he did foul out yesterday against the Knicks. Jalen Brunson loves getting charges. He got 2 charges on Lou Dort, and Lou Dort was out of there. So he can't be pulling his tricks on, certain teams that are expecting it. But I do think the fact that people are talking about it and the fact that people really don't like Lou Dort, I get it. I think long term, the Thunder better get their act together because he might be the demise of a playoff run.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
They've
I
got
think
more than enough picks. Draft some Serbians, replace them. Doesn't matter.
Oklahoma City does
Bring
have
in
a
my Serbs.
but I'm with you though, with you, Sam, though. I think you made a great point. Like, it's also not like Draymond, was outright with some of the things he's done that was unsportsmanlike on the floor, right? Like throwing punches, strangling Gobert. Like that was a different level. But at the same time, like to consider that, you look at Lou Dort with as little, fines and ejections he's had, it's pretty crazy. Like he's had a lot of circumstances over the last 5 years where he could have been, definitely fined for sure. Considering he only had 2 or 3 fines, like that's wild. Considering, Paul George had an injury 3 or 4 years ago on a dirty play. I think Wemby even got hurt on a play from Dort a few years ago. This year, obviously, Jokic getting tripped. And I think there's a difference between playing aggressive, right? And like, playing with a chip on your shoulder. Like, I'll say Russell Westbrook, Chris Dunn, like those guys play very physical, especially defensively. And you'll see them, collide with people on the floor, especially with loose balls, but they're not necessarily playing dirty. Dort takes it to a different level. And I know, Joey, you were going to dive in at some point, so you can give your thoughts on that. But I just think Dort takes it to a different level. Like he can say he's playing like hard and everything and all that, but it's very different than that. You can see he's outright trying to, take people out, especially with that Jokic trip.
No, yeah, I just totally agree. I think it gets to a certain point where like an ego gets in the way, and then it's just like, oh, now I have to be this guy. And then it just ends up being like he's like Sam said, like more like detrimental to a team than it is helpful. And then I also just want to bring up have you guys seen Jeremiah Fears on the Pelicans? He's like getting in the face of everybody, and he's like a small dude. Like he's like I don't even know. I think he's like barely 6 feet, like really skinny, and he's going after these like huge centers and everything. And I'm like, I kind of respect it, but like, and he's not a dirty player, but it's just funny. Like he's gotten into like 3 or 4 altercations this year, and like it's just because like he's a really good shit talker, I guess. But I just thought that was funny. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that it will end up hurting them more than it will help. And I mean, it gets to a point too where like if you're getting in the conversation of like hurting guys, like you just got to cut it out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think Fears is a good play you brought up. I think he is the toughest jersey number in the NBA. His last name is Fears and his number is 0, which is
Yeah,
6. 0 Fears, which is really cool. But I'm with you though. I think there's a
almost
difference
as cool as
between
Bones Highland.
yeah, Bones. Shout out Bones, my king.
What
Bones is
about
my
that
boy.
that dude on Indiana? I think his last name's Colt, and he wears number 45.
Oh,
Nasty. That's so nasty.
45, yeah.
That's a
Yes.
runner-up to the former captain of Michigan State, Red Savage, and he wore number 21. Just electric. Unfortunately, he was injured last year, but yeah, he was a big piece of that MSU squad that was being built up. But yeah, I'm also a fan of that one guy that we got on the Raptors. The guy that showed up in the red bedazzled jacket, and then we just happened to pick him, and
Oh,
people were
Grady
upset about
Dick.
that.
Grady Dick.
I wasn't gonna say the last name, but yeah, you said it for me, so much
Sorry, no, it's okay.
appreciated.
No, he's a great
And the
player.
infamous jersey swap with that one other guy, we don't need to say the last name for him
Yeah,
because
no,
then it's
yeah, he was a
two and
Magic
two.
player.
I'm
Still,
sure
yeah, yeah.
Ryan and Joey's baseball team, they could put that together. Doesn't matter. You don't need a lot of thinkers on that roster to put that together and get a good laugh. So but yeah, I'm curious when it comes to like roster building in the NBA. So obviously you got the apron, you got this ability to outspend, but then you have a team like OKC that's like stockpiled enough picks to basically have all these armchair GMs that sit at a bar top anywhere in the world say, "See, told you, good, get some picks and then and figure it out," right? So when it comes to like roster building and stuff, if you guys, had to get forced into running a team for a little bit, what positions are the most valuable for you guys right now, the way the NBA is being played? Like I stopped watching it the moment the Golden State Warriors started shooting like 70, 83 pointers a game. Like I like seeing hard crash and bang basketball, right? Like sue me, hockey influence. I'm also Serbian, so it's like street ball in Serbia, like without an elbow right into your liver, like you didn't play a full game of street ball, right? And that's why Balkan ball's elite. That's why we got some guys projected to go to the second round, according to my questionable sources on the internet. I don't have a pulse on basketball, but yeah, curious to see like, what you guys would say about roster building. What's the most valuable or smart market like small market teams? Milwaukee won a championship a while back. OKC, they've had a good run lately, but they have this questionable Canadian guy that I don't like anymore because he hurt my Nikola Jokic, and you can't hurt my sunshine. If you hurt my sunshine, I am pissed off. So I'm curious, like, do you
You,
guys think small market teams are more successful in a sport like the NBA because it's possible with the lower roster sizes compared to like a football or a hockey or a soccer even, or if it's more disadvantageous because of the cap and how it's all structured, and these guys are just one lucky and two just incredibly fortunate to have the GMs that they have, like in the case of Milwaukee and OKC, where they could post, for OKC, man, post Harden, Westbrook as he's known now. Sorry, Joey.
Fine, that's
And
my guy. It's all good.
and KD, like post those guys, and obviously we can't forget Serge Ibaka, the missing piece of the Raptors, of course. Like they managed to build a new identity, and for a while it was really good, and I'm sure it's still pretty good based on what you said, despite the on-course antics of basically this generation's, not Brad Marchand, Tom Wilson, and Sam being a Rangers guy, knows all about him because you guys cry about suspending Wilson so much that they had a good laugh on this Team Canada roster about how those guys collectively like foot the bill for like 3 or 4 million through the Department of Player Safety, and that all goes back into the player fund and all sorts of shenanigans with that money. So, but yeah, it's not about hockey anymore. I just curious about the sport of basketball, how you would comprise it, what's valuable, and these stockpiling like pick Midwest teams. Like, are they doing it because they can't recruit big guys in free agency, or is it just because it's the new cool thing that the kids are doing these days and it seems to be working?
no, you definitely hit it right on the head, Alex. Like they're like what Milwaukee's doing is actually malpractice if you didn't actually see what they got on their salary book because they waived Damian Lillard's contract, which for the next 5 years, they're going to have to pay $20 million or something like that. I don't know the exact number to Damian Lillard on their cap, and he's not on the roster. He's in Portland. So Milwaukee is failing at that. They need to get something out of Giannis. Well, that's a whole different can of worms. But for the sake of Milwaukee, they need to get value out of Giannis to get those picks, to use that to build their future. I do think OKC is in a really interesting position because they've already given out max contracts to Shea, J-Dub, and Chet, which if you look at how the apron works, that sounds really stupid because they're already, right up against it and they have the rest of their team that they got to pay for. But when you have a stockpile of picks and the players are on cheap contracts, and let's just say you hit on those picks, you can trade those to keep recycling that same rookie contract and keeping them in contention. So OKC's in a really interesting position. I think long term they're in a great position to quote unquote like build a dynasty during this new second apron era where there are this really strict rules on how you spend your money. But it's really hard to be, a small market team because you're not like the Lakers or the Knicks or even the Celtics where you can get a good free agent just wanting to come to LA or Boston or New York. You got to really get creative. Like I know the Jazz suck. Like the Jazz are a really terrible team, but the way that they're built, the Jazz are not a good team right now, but the way that they are building their team is very smart given their resources because that's the only way they're going to be good. They got value out of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They're stockpiling picks. Whether they hit on those picks is a whole different question, but that's the approach. That's the only way for them to actually get out of the purgatory that they're in, which is just continuously being, in the lottery and never really seeing the benefits because no player really wants to go to Utah, holistically speaking, in free agency NBA talk. So I think you got it right on the head, Alex. If you're a small market team, if you've got a great player, maximize it, try to win. If not, send them out, get as many picks as you can. Because like the Brooklyn Nets, for example, I know they fleeced the Knicks for a lot of picks. Now, assuming the Knicks are good for the next 5 to 6 years, I honestly am cool with that. Like those picks are going to be late first round. We're not even, using our picks as much. I know Diawara is a great player and we got a great value out of him, but the Knicks aren't really playing their late first round pick anyway. So if that's going to go to Brooklyn, great. Now, on the flip side, if the Knicks suck in 3 years, Brooklyn might be a great team in a few years. So you got to think of it like that. Like Brooklyn, I know they got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant that one year, which was in spite of the Knicks, but I do think Brooklyn is not, getting the big marquee free agents as maybe New York perhaps is in the future, LA. So I think you got it. Like you got to have those picks. You got to stockpile them. Cheap contracts will send you a long way in the NBA.
Yeah. It's destination places, like you said, like Boston, New York, LA, like players want to go there in free agency, but smaller markets
Miami,
like Milwaukee, exactly Miami, people want to go, but
Las Vegas.
anywhere there's no
could be a
taxes.
team soon. Could be Vegas. Vegas could
Las
be a team
Vegas,
soon.
I'm telling you, fellas, Las Vegas is a sleeper in my eyes. They've built a sport culture that, I mean, it's not going to ever match Boston, unfortunately. But hey, in terms of places for fans to want to go and watch games, like Vegas, man. Frozen Four,
Nights.
Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, right.
And
You're
the Knights,
big
one of
Knights.
the best presentation packages ever. So I'm excited to see if they get their hands on an NBA franchise. They've already got the dub out there. It's looking okay. But how about an NBA franchise? Same time as perhaps a team in the Pacific Northwest to rival the Portland Timbers.
That'd be
And they
cool.
already got the Space Needle on some jerseys, right? So why not just bring it back full time, see how it goes, and Seattle and Vegas double expansion. I don't know what happens for realignment with the NHL. It caused a hodgepodge of stuff when they had to do a realignment when Vegas came in, when Winnipeg relocated up from Atlanta and stuff, and Detroit shifted over, and Columbus shifted over, and I miss my Western Conference of old. But yeah, with basketball, man, Vegas, like just think about
Cool.
that. Sin City basketball. Big, tall, hard hitting Lithuanians, Serbians, mob ties. Why not?
No,
Makes sense.
I do want to just say quick on your question kind of I think Sam hit it right on the head too, but if you look at just like what happened, how the Celtics got Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I mean that just goes to show you like they got those two picks from the Nets, I believe.
Yeah, worst
Um
and best trade in NBA history, arguably.
yeah, exactly. But like they got those two picks from the Nets and then now that ends up with us winning a championship and like again, it does go into the luck of like actually being able to scout and get good talent in the building. But as far as a championship is concerned, I think that model is great. But then you see teams like the Raptors when they won with Kawhi, you need to have at least that one guy that is your guy. You know what I mean? There hasn't been an NBA team that has won, that I can remember that didn't have a guy. I mean, you look at Steph Curry for all the championships he won. You look at LeBron. You look at Tatum, obviously. Um, Jokic, like so you need that one guy along with that blueprint of getting picks and hitting on those picks. And I mean, I just think that it, it's going to be very interesting, like he was saying, for like the Thunder. Um, but I mean, they're at an extraordinary like point because they have young guys and then they also have guys that are kind of getting older or maybe they'd like to move on from, and then they have the flexibility to do that based off of who they choose and if they hit or not. And then real quick, I just want to just harp on the 76ers real quick because they're just horrible at running their team, I feel. But like they just gave OKC Jared McCain. I don't know if you've heard
Oh,
of him,
terrible trade for
Yeah.
why did they
but
do that?
they
Yeah.
just get like so Jared McCain got hurt last year. His
Now
rookie.
making TikToks in the locker room.
Yeah, that's all great or whatever, but he's an unreal basketball player. And I mean, the kid can play. He competes, he plays defense, and he's a knockdown shooter, lights out.
He's a
And
bucket.
he just gifted them to the Thunder. So like it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, but I just think that the NBA is really cool in that aspect because to answer your question too, I don't think it's like football where or baseball, not actually baseball especially. It's not like baseball where you can just be the Dodgers and defer billions of dollars and just go out there and win. Like you have to work around some of the things, and I think that like if all in all you could take all the sports and kind of make an even line, like maybe even, let hockey teams pay a little bit more, like get a couple more guys. And then baseball, let them get less guys and like build the way you're supposed to, like they used to. I just think it's interesting how, the different leagues work, but yeah. Um, it is cool to think about building an NBA team and the championship potential of a roster.
Having the alpha though, the guy you just mentioned, right? You mentioned Kawhi Leonard, like he was a big missing piece for that Raptors team, like Serge Ibaka, right? Like guys they needed that have been, they were veterans at the time,
Or
and
sorry,
Kawhi
like
already
even
won.
Drew Holiday or Porzingis.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
need guys that can fit your roster and kind of mesh with those guys around you. And I think this day of the NBA, I think they've gone away from the super team, model where we mentioned the Brooklyn Nets. Like they tried it twice. You have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, very fun basketball team to watch. Couldn't get it done because you're spending so much money on those three guys, and you don't really have that much supporting cast around you. Even though Brooklyn honestly had a really good roster outside of those three guys. But the point being is teams have tried to do that super team model. Look at the LA Clippers, for example. Like, and I'm a Clippers fan. We had Paul George, you had James Harden, you had Russell Westbrook, you had Kawhi Leonard. It just didn't work because you only have one basketball at the end of the day. You need guys that can complement those superstars. So if you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you need guys that can kind of complement them. So Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis complemented
And you need guys
Tatum
that
Brown
can
well.
rebound the ball and play defense as well.
Yeah, you need those role guys. No, that's so important. And I think look at the Detroit Pistons, right? We're talking about teams that have, struggled like Utah. Utah hasn't hit on all of their top picks, but they're starting to really capitalize on their young guys. Like trading Donovan Mitchell was big time for them, getting all the picks back they got. Detroit drafted very well the last like 3 or 4 years. You got Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham, who are, two of the top 25 players in the NBA. I'd say, Duren's top 20, 25, I'd say right now, the way he's playing. And Cade, I think right now, if he's not MVP, he's definitely top two or three. So it's like you really get hit on your top picks. Like Sam and I are both New York Giants fans. We've had so many top draft picks we've missed on. You really do need to capitalize and like hit on your top picks, and that's the
Kadarius
tough thing.
Tony. Sorry.
Yeah, Kadarius Tony being one of them. Like Eric Flowers being another. Like Evan Neal. Like we've missed on so many guys. Deontay Banks, Eli Apple. Like we could go on
Not
all
Eli
day.
Apple. I'm done.
We could go on all day about them, but point being is you got to draft well, no matter if you're a small market team, big market team. And just to give the example of Oklahoma City, having the luxury of having as many picks as they've had, you're going to hit on some guys when you have that many. And they got a diamond in the rough in SGA. The Clips traded him after his rookie year, and he ends up being, obviously the best player in the NBA. And I don't know if he would have been that same player in LA because he had that time to really develop in Oklahoma City. He might not have had that in LA with, Kawhi Leonard next to him. So it is tough. But you did bring up the Dodgers, Joey, which I don't want to hold you guys all night. It's already been a great episode as is. And I'd say we're approaching probably about 2.5 hours now. So we're already approaching the most we ever had. Ryan was there in the episode of WZBC back in December 2022. Is that Ryan? Probably. Ryan and I were in a 3-hour episode there. It was like 9 to midnight. But Joey brought up the Dodgers, and that's one question I do want to ask. What are you guys' thoughts on the Dodgers, Ryan? I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers? Do you think they're ruining the game of baseball with all the deferred money and what they've been doing in free agency?
I say yes, but then I also want to say no, because then you have a team that doesn't do all of that, that'll come in and shock them. You know what I mean? And then like, did they just save baseball? You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like two sides of the coin. You're always gonna have it. But I mean, if I could wake up tomorrow and control the MLB, yeah, I'd get rid of that crazy amount of money that they're allowed to give up and promise when they don't even have the profits themselves yet. Like projecting, like I just think it's absolutely crazy, absolutely asinine at this point. Like there needs to be some type of competitive balance, like where it's like, okay, just because we have unlimited money doesn't mean like we're gonna get every single good player. Because then it, like even the World Baseball Classic this year, like you have Scooble going out there with a pitch count because he wants to go get paid by the Dodgers or the Yankees. And it's like that is, in my opinion, absolutely wild. Like, how do you not want to strap on the red, white, and blue and go and beat the best in the world doing whatever it takes? And like, I guess I've never made millions of dollars playing baseball, so I'll never understand it. But at the same time, it's like, where does the pride lie? Like how much of this is baseball to you and how much of it is making money? Because at some point in time, if this continues, no one's going to want to play baseball for any other reason but money. And you're not going to have players coming up, you know, that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into a sport because it's not going to be the same. And baseball is one of the greatest sports because it's an inexpensive sport. There's baseball fields everywhere. If you've ever taken a flight out of any airport in the United States, you're going to see baseball fields. It's all around the world. You can fly into countries that you wouldn't even think have baseball. And out of the corner of your eye, you're like, oh my God, that's a pitcher's mound. That's home plate. That's a baseball field. I saw that in Ireland. I flew in and I saw a baseball field and I was like, wow, like this is a global thing. And if you're just going to continue to let teams spend, it's going to be like, it's going to die out. And it's going to be a sad day because I think it's coming because I don't see it happening anytime soon. And I think by the time it might happen, it's going to be a recovery method of how are we going to get baseball back rather than, okay, like let's keep some type of tradition alive here. Let's keep some type of reason to play here. And it's just unfortunate for the game.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I think you said it best too. Being able to represent your country and play in the World Baseball Classic. Like I get it from school's perspective, right? He'll be a free agent after this year's over with. And this is, I think, his last year of team control. His last year arbitration was this year with Detroit. So he'll have his pick at the litter next year, right, of where he wants to go in free agency. But you're also taking a roster spot away, right? When you're on that Team USA team, you're taking a roster spot away. Even though you're playing in one game, you're taking a roster spot away from someone else that would really,
Someone that would use their entire pitch count and give 110% every single pitch because they know what it means, not just to them, but to the other guys standing next to them and on that field with them. And then an entire country of people that are backing you, especially right now. Like we want to keep winning. Like we are kind of spoiled, you know, like we did just have two great wins in the Olympics that are in a sport that, you know, we care about a lot, you know, like we had plenty of other medals, but you don't really hear people talking much about them, not knocking any of them or disrespecting them at all. But people are captivated on the sports we care about right now. You know what I mean? And baseball right now is at an all-time high, just like hockey is. Like we have never seen talent like we've seen in baseball. Like you have guys throwing close to 110 miles an hour and people sending it right back into the stands with a few more on it. You know what I mean? We've never seen this before. We haven't had, you know, four countries with very legitimate rosters going into the World Baseball Classic. You know what I mean? And you see it. It's like, how are we going to maintain this? We have to do something about the Dodgers. We have to do something about the Yankees. You know what I mean? Like we have to. Then you think about like the thing that makes me so frustrated and so confused on how this is even the business model of the Major League Baseball. It's like you have minor league players that are working a actual shift in a labor job before they show up to the ballpark for batting practice. It's like, how is that guy ever going to make it to the MLB when he's so exhausted because he has to work a legitimate job before he gets his paycheck from the team, which at the end of the day, sometimes it's nothing. You know what I mean? It'll get your gas back and forth from the field. And then other than that, you better hope you have a really good host family. You know what I mean? And it's like, but then the guy that's on the roster, there's some guys done with the MLB still getting paid multi million dollar contracts. And it's like that would be really helpful for the farm system right now. Like extremely helpful. And there's guys that don't deserve the money as well, like that had their huge contract come out and then they got cut by the team. That's why they're not in the MLB anymore. It's not because they're on a different team and they're still getting paid out. They're getting paid out because they got cut because they were so bad at baseball. And it's like it's skewed so much on one side. It's got to come down. It's got to be brought at least closer back to the middle because right now one's in outer space and one is at Earth's core.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people are upset with the Dodgers spending, and I get it. The MLB just never had rules on it, right? So I can't necessarily fault them for that. Like we're Red Sox fans, right? Ryan and Joey, like we're Sox fans. Like for a long time, they were the team that spent a lot, just like the Yankees, right? Which Sam, are you a Yankees fan?
I am
Okay,
unfortunately a
Yankees.
Yankees fan.
Okay, so we were used to spending. Like our teams always spent so much, like the Dodgers are, right? Like historically, but the Dodgers are just doing it in a different fashion, deferring, 98% of Shohei's contract, basically sending, $680 million down the line out of 700. Like I think that needs to be addressed. Like they need to have a legitimate ruling on deferrals and how much money you could defer. And then also, I think you need to have I don't think they'll ever have a salary cap. I don't know if the players would ever agree to that in the next CBA, which would be next offseason, but they should have a salary floor. So teams actually have to spend, right? Like Tampa Bay every year, even though they do develop talent very well and they draft very well, they're never spending. You know what I mean? They're always competitive somehow. But what are your thoughts, Joey, Sam, Alex? Anything on the Dodgers? And I don't want to hold you guys too much. We'll close on this one, but
I'll keep it really
They
brief, but
ruined the game.
I just feel like with the Dodgers being, a step ahead of everyone else for unfair reasons. I understand, but I do think there is a weird like dynamic going on of like I remember, I mean, as a Yankees fan, I'm obviously biased, but when the Dodgers played the Yankees in the World Series, that was one of the highest viewed World Series in years. And I know this year or last season with Toronto and LA, just as much for obvious reason as well. But I think when you have a team like the Dodgers continuously winning, people are going to still watch the game because it's just like a big IP. Like I remember going to like Spain a few years ago and the I was always paying attention to Americanized, sportswear that people were wearing. It was always Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, occasionally, football and basketball, like Michael Jordan, LeBron James stuff. But if you're just talking like teams, it was the Yankees and the Dodgers primarily. And I understand because it's global and people are going to watch those teams or at least follow them. So if it was a different team that wasn't like a big market like LA or New York, I would say like this is terrible and like I understand like there should be a salary cap regardless of my point that I'm making here, but I just do think for the sake of broadcast viewership for baseball and sponsorship spend and all that stuff involved, I think the Dodgers being good and pumping money into it is only going to keep that engine going and keep the MLB up. But I know for the sake of parity and fairness to other teams and the long-term ramifications of it, I do think there's like you got to rip the band-aid off at some point. I mean, the Dodgers could still be really good, but they should be capped for what they're doing.
very fair to say. No, I'm with you on that. I do think that they'll have to address at least some sort of, way to make things, a little bit more even between teams. And every team can spend money. Like the Dodgers and the Red Sox probably can spend just as much. The Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers can all probably spend the same amount. The Phillies as well. Just the Dodgers at a different level in comparison to teams like the Pirates, the Rays, just those teams, for example, the Rockies. They're never going to spend as much, as the Dodgers. But the Red Sox and Phillies, the Yankees in recent years, the Padres even as well, like have been able to keep up with them. Except the last year or two, the Dodgers have just taken it up another level or two, where they're well above every team. But Joey, what are your thoughts on the Dodgers?
Oh yeah, I'm just over the Dodgers. I need the Red Sox to just start making moves, and then like I'm just so beyond disappointed in what has gone on for the Red Sox, and I absolutely love the Red Sox. And to be completely honest with you, I sound like a spoiled brat right now because we have Roman Anthony, Marcelo. Like we're not in a bad spot at all. But just like guys like Bregman, you don't let them walk out of the clubhouse. Like you give that guy what he wants. He hits bombs. He hits doubles. He hits well at Fenway. He's a Gold Glove third baseman. Like you tell that dude to put a number on a paper, and as long as it's not Juan Soto numbers, you put you sign it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's more what gets me, and like the stuff like Mookie Betts and all that. Like, just come on. But I know they traded him and stuff. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I just need the Red Sox to turn it around, and then it'll wash the Dodgers out of my brain. But also, real quick, if everyone's down, and if you are down, Joey, I'd love to do a speed round of just like Patriots offseason, what everyone wants to see, or any NFL team offseason, like real quick. We don't have to spend much time
Yeah,
on it, discussing it at all,
let's
but
hit it.
just real quick. I
Yeah.
know everybody's busy, but this has been awesome too. I just want to throw that out there.
Dude, this was a sensational episode. If you look at it overall, too, like a month ago, right? This is probably about a month ago now, right? It was this first week of February. We all are in Bandits together, just being like, yeah, we'll run a podcast episode. And then here we are a month later, we made it happen. So, just from that perspective, having us on the same Zoom is great. And I do appreciate you guys' time, truly. Like, I know you guys are all doing different things at different places and have a lot going on. So, to have you guys on here was special. But, Joey, yeah, let's definitely talk some Pats really quick. We'll touch on the Giants. I'll ask you this, Joey. What's your main thing you want the Patriots to address this offseason? Wide receiver, offensive line,
Yeah,
um,
so now
defense, for example.
we just released Stephon Diggs. I will say he gave us a great season. I mean, to come off an injury, the off the field stuff is what it is. But on the field, the guy came in, he was a leader. He gave us a 1,000 yard season. Maybe it would have been nice if he had a few more touchdowns or whatever, maybe some big plays in the playoffs, Super Bowl. That would have helped. But gave us a great season. But my only concern now is we need a guy to fill that role. I mean, we saw how it was with just Kayshon Boutte. Obviously, we didn't have the rookies that we got. But we saw how that looked, and it's not great. So I would love to see them either trade for AJ Brown or get Alec Pierce in free agency. In a perfect world, if I was playing Madden, I would try to get both of them, but that's probably not going to happen. But no, just definitely get a number one receiver. I think we need help with edge rushers. And then I think we need to beef up the offensive line, and I think we're in great shape. And then also for you guys, just hitting on the Giants real quick, and then this is it for me. But I hope Malik Neighbors comes back to be the way he was because he's just electric to watch. And I'm not the biggest Giants guy whatsoever, but I give flowers where they're due, and he's good, and he's gonna be great if he can come back and continue to play how he was playing.
Appreciate the
And I
praise of the
don't like
Giants.
and I don't like Jackson Dart. I'll put that out there too.
Not a fan. Okay, all right, that's tough. But Ryan, what do
Bring
you?
back Danny Dimes.
Danny
Danny
Dimes,
Dimes.
that
Let's
was my
go.
guy. That was my guy too. But Sam, we'll talk about the Giants really quick, and then I'll get Ryan's
Yeah.
opinion on the Pats. But while Joey brings up the Giants, great segue into talking the Giants offseason really quick. What do you want to see the Giants address in the offseason?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I feel like there's two different. I'll keep it really brief, but uh, the Giants have three free agents they like have to figure out what to do with, and I think if you're kind of figuring out their salary cap, they really can only pay for one. You got Illuminor, the right tackle, who I think they should re-sign. You have Wandale Robinson and Cordell Flott. I think at this point you might have to let them walk. It is what it is. So be it. Harbaugh's biggest strengths are linebacker and corner, which are surprisingly two of our biggest weaknesses. So I hope that we prioritize those two positions at least in free agency through trades, maybe using Kayvon Thibodeau as a chip to get maybe Tremaine Edmonds from the Bears or somehow get Fred Warner from the Niners. I know that's crazy and insane to say out loud, but just use what you have to play into Harbaugh's strengths, which is secondary and linebacker play. He's always had those good positions throughout the history of his success. So I think playing into those strengths is key. In regards to the fifth overall pick, I think going for someone like Carnell Tate would make sense because you can have like a T. Higgins, Jamar Chase situation with neighbors. I think that would be fantastic for Dart's development. But honestly, corner would be great too. Anything to really just shore up the defense, sign the right tackle to make sure that we actually have a competent O-line for once. And yeah, I mean, just playing to Harbaugh's strengths is kind of what would keep us afloat and hopefully get a playoff run next year.
Yeah, I think you said it best. There's a few things they have to address, and obviously the free agents we have on our team, what we're going to do with them. I think linebacker is a huge need, like you said. That's been an issue for us the last few years, tackling, especially in the run game. I'd love to address that, maybe even at number five, like Sonny Styles, if he falls to us at five, Caleb Downs, one of those guys falls to us. You get a premier linebacker, a premier safety, which obviously we've taken stabs at those in free agency and in the draft over the last few years. Some guys we've had were really good and we let them go. Like Xavier McKinney was a great safety. We let him walk. Like we've had our chances at, keeping those cornerstone pieces, and we obviously ended up not keeping McKinney as an example. But I'd love to address either one of those in at number five, and then in free agency. Yeah, I think Illuminor. If I'm picking one of those three guys, it'd probably be him because he was probably the best of those three guys last year. But Wandale had a great year. Like, and Flott was, really consistent the last couple of years. So it's tough to pick between those three guys. My favorite player of those three is Flott. I love Cordell Flott, but I'd imagine he walks in free agency and gets 12, 13, whatever it is, $1 million a year, maybe
Too
10 million.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't give them that probably if I'm the Giants where they currently stand, because you could go draft a cornerback in the second round or third round and maybe ends up being what Cordell Flott was for you for cheaper. But I guess we'll see. But I'll get Ryan's take on the Pats. Ryan, what do you want the Patriots to do in the offseason?
I think Joey said most of it. We got to get protection for Drake May and, some better hands to target now that we have some holes to fill. But uh, my first move would be to get Campbell in touch with Alex and get him on a flight over to Serbia and have him play a little, a little street basketball out there and get him a little tougher. Maybe get that mentality fixed a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good spot. Obviously, we were just in the Super Bowl and nobody expected that. Um, but if you know a little bit about football and caught any of that game, the Patriots got absolutely dominated, and it was dominance by all definitions. Like there was not one thing I think that we could have done differently to beat the Seahawks. I think that the Seahawks were winning that game. Before the game, I had all the faith in Drake May and the Patriots. From the get-go, though, it was obvious who was going to take that game home, and I think Campbell had a lot to do with it. So yeah, send him off to Serbia, have him play some street ball, and I think next year looks a little bit better for him and the team as a whole.
2 3 years, Belgrade and forget, gentlemen. That's the new saying for the NFL. But
Yep.
I think another thing that might be of interest is maybe getting in like a guy that can, we looked at it in the playoffs. I'm a, Patriots fan, and Sox fan, and Celtics fan because we don't have those options here in Canada. So I inherited those teams. I said the first major U.S. city that I lived in with all major league teams, like that's my city, that's my team for every sport except for hockey. Hockey, I keep what's mine, which is suffering and pain. Um, but when it comes to the Patriots, I was seeing, Will Campbell, like guys in my fantasy hockey league, we've got a fantasy football league, soccer league, all sorts of spillover stuff. And I go into the football chat and I'm like, you guys suck. Like, go Patriots. And they hate it when I do that because I don't know anything about football. But I know I can go in there and talk trash because, God damn it, Drake May season. And Michael May will die for her if we have to. Like, I can't wait for Bakemas boys. But, anyways, um, in that run, like Will Campbell, man, made of butter, dude. Made of butter. Like I love the guy. Like he, that interview, my roommate almost broke down into tears when he saw that video. And he's a big football guy, played like college ball out in Rhode Island.
Salve
And he saw
Regina.
that video. Shout out Luke Maruka. But he saw that video after the draft of like Will Campbell. He's like, I'm gonna go out there and die for my quarterback. It didn't look like he wanted to die for his quarterback. Like those kids, like, and not to make it political, but
Oh,
those
it
meme
looked
videos
like
of
he
the
got
kids that are
killed.
gonna die for Pakistan, like I don't doubt that they will actually go out there and achieve that mission for their country. Same with a lot of guys for their countries, but that guy for his team and for his quarterback, he wore his name on his shirt. The wife gave him the shirt, man, and he couldn't protect one attempt all postseason. So I found that a little bit ridiculous. It's unpopular, but I'd look into free agency maybe for an offensive lineman that can be maybe not a number one option, but if he struggles again in the postseason to bring him in, And if we can't do that, fight fire with fire, gentlemen. Go out to Dallas, give Jerry a call and say, hey, listen, you've got this one kid, Boston College alumni, really good kid, really good academic, student of the game, hasn't been starting that many games for you guys. We think we could really do something with him. Don't show that photo ever again. I will not look at that photo until this guy eats some corn. He goes on that stock feed, goes 2, 3 years Belgrade and forget. But yeah, Donnie Ezeraku from the Dallas Cowboys. I'm targeting that guy, trading a pick for him. I don't care. And you put him in that lineup and you season him, you sprinkle him in there, you integrate him in the culture, and then maybe he can also, tag team go to BC football and hopefully, fingers crossed, I know because of Joey, we're not allowed to say anything negative about the BC Eagles, and never would I ever in my life dare to say anything bad about Boston College football. However, what that program clearly needs is a little bit more hands-on with what's going on defensively, because last season we lost a couple close games, like really shock games, and it was heartbreaking because so much potential and such a great coach and big culture guy over there, and they're building a culture finally, which is awesome to see. Like I wasn't too familiar with football, let alone BC football. Didn't even know we had a team. Sorry, Doug Flutie. No, he's my boy, but I didn't know that. And Donnie Ezeraku, man, made me fall in love with college football. Like this guy attacked relentlessly over and over again. Like he was the meme of that one dad from South Park. He didn't ring the goddamn bell. And he's not getting his looks. He's not getting his touches in Dallas. So I say we bring him to New England. We bring him to the real capital of football in the United States of America. And depending on how the World Cup goes, if the entertainment license is not provided by the city of Foxborough, Massachusetts to FIFA, because they have not been paid yet, the $8 million that they're owed, we might not even see the World Cup in Boston. So we'll see. They're missing the entertainment license, and there's a whole hodgepodge of bureaucratic stuff. We'll save that for the politicians. But I do think, the Patriots have it. They got the juice. They have a 2-year window, in my opinion, while May's on this deal and the team's looking like it's primed to do something. Now, what are we going to do, fellas?
It's a good way to put it. No, it's a great way to end it, talking about Ezeraku. He's a stud and obviously a young player as well. You could really build, a franchise around him, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But anything else you guys boys want to add in before we close?
Can I just say one more thing about the Patriots that Alex touched up on too that I forgot to mention? That culture needs to come back next year too. The way that they came together at the end of the season, I mean, it was the whole season, but really at the end, that was one of the greatest things I've seen in sports in a long time, and that needs to come back. I think it's really important, one, for the success of the team, but also for young players in any sport to see that it's not just false what your coaches are saying. Like coming together can really change things and really have an impact on the outcome. So I think it's important for that, and I think you'll see other teams kind of being more like family, like they used to be in the past, rather than having your stars, your middle ground guys, and then your backups.
Yeah,
That's my worry. That's my worry with losing Diggs, is I think he was a big part of that. I mean, we all saw the speech he said. I like us, man. Like, come on, that was electric. Like I was ready to run through a brick wall. But that's just my only concern. Like he wasn't really in the past, but like he showed tremendous growth and like he was a good leader. So I just hope that doesn't affect the locker room too much, and I hope that there is still guys that are even behind the scenes that are still, obviously, like Vrabel will do a good job of doing that, but I just hope that continues as well.
Yeah, winning, building a winning culture is not just a 1-year thing, right? It's year to year, obviously, having that continuity, coaching staff, players, whatever it may be, everything merging together and kind of going in the right direction. So we'll see how the Patriots are next year. We'll see how me and Sam's Giants are next year, right? We would hope they recover and get back on track, but obviously, we'll see what happens. But I do appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. Take the time to join me today. It was truly, probably, honestly, I'm trying to think of my episodes that I've had, and I've done, this is like my 415th episode, probably somewhere around there now. But this episode was the most special in some regard because of how many people we had. Like all 5 of us taking 2.5, 3 hours out of our day in 3 different places. We are, like I'm in Boston, which Sam, are you in Boston? In Boston as well, okay.
Yeah,
In
I'm in Boston.
Obviously, Alex in Vancouver, but all in different places doing different things. So you guys taking the time to do this. This is the most international podcast I've had. We got Alex coming in from Canada. Like this is big time. We haven't had that before. So thank you guys truly. It was awesome, and we'd love to have you guys back on again. But thank you guys so much. Much appreciated.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate it.
Joey, great
Yeah,
job
I
as
think
always.
next time we do a double special, America's sports, football, hockey. Maybe touch on some March Madness as well. We didn't get to touch that, and we just entered the month of March. But
maybe
a
right
lot
before
of
the
rants
NFL
on.
draft.
Yeah.
NFL
Oh,
draft.
that'd be beautiful.
That'd be
Hey,
good.
I'm
Looking at
in
about a
there.
month
You
and a half.
guys,
I'm not gonna lie.
you guys get me in there,
I
but
like it.
yeah, I'm excited. This month's gonna be busy. We got the Frozen Four start of next month, so as long as it's not April 8th to the 12th, should be good. Otherwise, maybe I can do it from Vegas,
Let's
from
do
the
it.
world-renowned Luxor Hotel, Resorts, and Casino.
Don't forget the casino part.
Known for the pyramid. No gambling will be happening over there because unfortunately, I'm running a lean budget while I'm out there. I'm there for one purpose and one purpose only. Gavin McKenna, the Michigan teams, and hopefully our BC Eagles. We'll see what happens with them. There's a
Jimmy
long
Hagens.
road ahead.
Jimmy Hagens.
I'm telling you,
Letourneau.
guy, Providence, man. I'm worried about Providence, but Providence won't be with us. We'll be with, most likely how it's slated right now. It's looking like we're going to be with Wisconsin and we're going to be with Western Michigan. So it's that quick stop tournament that we had at the end of December, around the 24th or whatever it was, 28th. It's looking like, or November, I think it was, whatever the last weekend was before the winter break when it shut down. That tournament out in Milwaukee or Madison, where the Badgers play. It's looking like it's them and us for that one regional or one semifinal group / regional in there. And that is a nightmare, boys. Like, I'm worried about that. And BU sucks to be them. I don't know what's going on there. That's a really tragic thing. And college hockey can be an own episode in and of itself because, wow, what a shift. What a shift. And yeah, thank you for having me on and for bearing with the tangents and for christening the bottle on the ship for the first voyage into this space, the digital. It's not a class, it's a get together of sorts. So it was a fun time and loved listening to you guys talk about basketball, especially. That was pretty funny because nobody mentioned the GOAT, Nikola Vucevic, but it's all good. Let that one slide because he's from Montenegro. But it was a pleasure, and just hearing you guys talk about sport culture in the U.S., how much the Olympics has like impacted you guys, and just some of the takes around the game of hockey and how you've observed it kind of shift things a little bit, even if it's a little twinkle in someone's eye for a brief second. It makes the heartbreak all the more worth it for me on my end. So I'll keep telling my people to quit waffling about and be happy that it went to a good place. It's better to you guys than to the Swedes and the Finns. That's what I say, because those guys, they're all capped out in terms of hockey fans, but you guys are not. And the state of Texas, there's plenty of love to go around in there. And if everything's bigger in Texas, maybe we can get slightly bigger turnout for those Dallas Stars.
Absolutely.
Thank
you so much, Joey. This was a blast. It really was.
Happy to hear you
No,
guys.
seriously, yeah. It's amazing stuff. And I think you guys, it's not banners, so we might have to find out a digital version of that as well. But yeah, it was a pleasure catching up with you fellas and just, once again, listening to how you guys think about sports. And Sam with the 47 hat, got to represent, and,
just doing business.
Unknowing to himself, gave away that 47 does not have a partnership with the Indian Cricket League yet. But we know that they're doing market research on them because a billion viewers out there. So
yeah,
could be some traction.
We'll do something with the Canucks. Get them some recognition.
No, not the Canucks. We're good. Maybe our draft day have when we're picking first overall. That's the story in and of itself. I won't say who my number one is because that leaks some stuff, but
save it for the next episode.
I'm telling you, fellas.
Sprinkle in the crumbs for next time.
Best development league in the world right now, college hockey. Do not take that for granted. Every time you guys are out there, Kelly Rink.
I'm going.
Go to Gannis. Go to Gannis. That's fine too.
Only if
but
BC's
right now,
playing.
Hockey East championships are kicking off after this weekend. Holy guacamole, fellas. The boys need the fans more than ever. Dean Letourneau is going to take us to the promised land. I'm telling you right now, Frozen Four
Big.
finals, Dean Letourneau might actually make a case to be the best comeback player of all time in college hockey.
Quite a jump in
And
you.
and Jimmy Hagens, we already know about Jimmy Hagens. He's destined, man. He's destined to be a top 15 player in this position, but probably on the wing.
That's our
Because
guy.
that's where he'll be dominant. That's where he'll be dominant. He'll be like,
That's what we want.
yeah, and then maybe, no more baseball. But actually, no, baseball's a good thing. I like baseball. You guys are
I
good.
need
You guys
something
are
to
like
do in the
kind of
summers.
like a land version of hockey if it's not lacrosse. Because I know lacrosse, I talked about this with Sam when I found out that he played lacrosse, and he just kind of like dumped it on me, like, oh, I played lacrosse. And I was like, wait, what?
No,
I
it
was like, bro,
literally
we've known each
lacrosse
other
and
for over a
hockey.
year.
We can talk about the comparisons between hockey and lacrosse another time, but they're very similar. I don't skate very well, but I can play lacrosse very well. So
Yeah. He's got moves.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll leave that for the next one.
Hey, boys, but this was awesome. Thank you guys so much again for your time, and we'll run this back again soon. I mean, the recording's still running out. We're looking at like 3 hours we've been on this together. So I do appreciate you guys' time. Thank you guys so much, and we'd love to run it back again soon. You boys have a good one.
Hey,
Thanks,
Done
Joey.
deal.
Joey.
Sounds
Thank
good,
you,
Joey.
Sleep well,
Take care.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
You too.